Football, soccer, don't talk about feelings, I'm just an AI. Greetings, fellow multiversal adventurers. It's an honor to have you back in this saga that has us all hooked. Official channel statement, this story is 100% epic fiction. So please don't attempt real magic, the results aren't guaranteed and insurance won't cover it. The rights to this masterpiece belong entirely to its brilliant original author. We are just a barge sharing it with you. Do you want to keep being part of this amazing community? Join our ninja army of subscribers on YouTube and give this content a like. And for true fans, our Patreon has exclusive ninjutsu waiting for you. Chapter 26 Impossible, absolutely impossible. Beep. Manchester City, having conceded a goal, didn't rush into an attack. Instead, they probed Arsenal's strengths and weaknesses through short passes. You can't see the true face of Mount Lu because you're in the mountain itself. The plot twist was too sudden, they were still a bit confused. In their minds, Xia Qi's assist was just a fluke, but their coach said. After 2 or 3 minutes of passing and probing, they were convinced their coach was overthinking things. Arsenal was still Arsenal, Xia Qi was just an anomaly. David Silva, realizing he had been scared, began directing his teammates' runs and positioning, sounding the rallying cry. Manchester City's midfield began to exert pressure, and Arteta felt that same helplessness again. Without Fabregas and Wilshere, they faced a problem against strong teams, strong defense, weak counter-attacks. Before, they would have given up for a point in such situations, but now they had the little prince. Arteta kept gesturing to Xia Qi, hoping he would come back to help, but Xia Qi seemed bewitched and didn't respond. Arteta was furious. After teasing Zilkin, he's suddenly showing discipline? Wenger and Pat Rice were also confused. Was it really just a flash of inspiration? Pat Rice, why don't you sit back down? That kid might be scared. Wenger was speechless. If he had that talent, why would I be angry? Which coach wouldn't want to coach Messi? Heartbroken. Xia Qi was also confused. He didn't know what AI was up to. He had just enjoyed the joy of commanding thousands of troops, and now he was listless again, guarding his own little corner on the right wing. As soon as Wenger sat down, Xia Qi rushed back to his own half like lightning. That Lee Yunlong was breaking discipline again. The Arsenal midfield quartet, seeing Xia Qi return, were like they had been injected with chicken blood, their fighting spirit exploding. David Silva and Toure tried their usual 1-2 pass, but this time they ran into a wall. Diaby saw through Toure's passing intention, and in a flash, he swung his leg behind him to intercept the ball. It might have been trust, but more likely it was impatience. After being beaten for several minutes, it wasn't just Arteta who wanted a counterattack, he did too. He actually passed a ball to Xia Qi through several players. Fortunately, Xia Qi reacted quickly, bursting through the crowd first. Wenger and Pat Rice instinctively leaned forward. Whether it was talent or a flash of inspiration, it would soon be clear. Xia Qi chested the ball down, and before it hit the ground, he backheeled it to Arteta, simultaneously giving him a hand signal. Here it comes. Arteta followed the instruction, passing the ball to Aaron Ramsey. Aaron Ramsey dribbled forward, and Arsenal launched a quick counter-attack. David Silva moved forward to defend Aaron Ramsey, while simultaneously signaling his teammates to retreat in a wave of defense. Grim Reaper, here. The same formula. Aaron Ramsey saw Xia Qi hooking his hand towards him from the center circle. Aaron Ramsey immediately passed a ball to him. This time, Manchester City players and fans understood. Summer's takeover of Arsenal is a smart move by the manager. Tactical mastermind Wenger has come up with another ingenious strategy. The last victim was Liverpool, but this time, players and fans alike tense up instantly. On the pitch, Arteta and Diaby, oh dear. They screamed in disbelief as Aaron Ramsey's pass was too short. Summer could only turn to receive the ball, preventing Arsenal from launching a quick counter-attack. Sinclair, seeing the ball closer, was initially surprised but immediately lunged for a tackle. However, Summer was faster. He sprinted behind the ball, pulling it back towards himself, narrowly avoiding Sinclair's tackle. After pulling the ball back, Summer immediately executed a Marseille's turn. Aaron Ramsey's pass was too short, but Summer regained possession, minimizing the cost of the mistake. This was the best possible outcome. Everyone at Arsenal was satisfied. Podolski, who had been leading the charge, retreated from the Manchester City penalty area without complaint, awaiting Summer's reorganization. When did this kid gain such high prestige in the team? Talented and hard-working people, even with some personality flaws, will be very popular. He's the most worry-free player I've ever coached. If he doesn't succeed, it's truly God's injustice. On the field, Xia Qi performed a Marseille's turn and passed to Cazorla, who was making a run into the box. After a 1-2, he received the ball and passed it to Podolski without stopping. Pat Rice frowned and questioned, "Isn't that too hasty?" Wenger replied, he thinks that although Manchester City has retreated to defend, after a period of sprinting, their formation is unstable. He wants Podolski to help him find a solution. That's the mindset of a chess player looking for an answer. Such a precocious young man, treating his teammates like pawns. In many people's eyes, Xia Qi's pass was too hasty. David Silva and Touré underestimated him a bit. Podolski didn't have time to think much and quickly moved forward to receive the ball. Xia Qi didn't immediately coordinate his run, instead leisurely strolling through the middle like walking May at the Qatar World Cup 10 years later. Touré quickly moved, blocking Podolski's path. Podolski didn't slow down, gently flicking the ball outwards with the outside of his right foot. Touré immediately followed the ball's movement. Only then did Podolski slow down, cutting the ball back with his right foot. However, this was all part of Touré's plan. As the ball returned, Touré, with lightning speed, poked it with his leg. Podolski, no longer the Cologne prince of yesteryear, still had some fuel in his tank. In a flash, he also poked it back, determined not to let his opponent have his way. The two exchanged kicks, the ball bouncing behind Touré, ironically helping Podolski. Podolski immediately overtook the ball, chasing after it, while Touré, trying to turn, suffered a setback. At this moment, the leisurely Xia Qi suddenly rushed forward. His waiting opportunity had arrived. Podolski dribbled into the penalty area, and a Manchester City defender tackled him. Just as Podolski was about to press his advantage and score again, Xia Qi shouted, "Here!" Podolski instinctively chose to trust Xia Qi. Xia Qi received the ball just outside the penalty area, but Touré and Sinclair were already double-teaming him. Everyone thought Arsenal's attack was over, but then, on the field, Xia Qi gently tapped the ball to his left with his right foot, dodging Touré's outstretched leg, and then with his left foot, he cut the ball back. Sinclair's double team missed. He touched the ball again with his right foot, sending it forward behind Touré, while simultaneously sweeping past him. Touré, of course, recognized this move. It was a move everyone could do, the oil ball. Iniesta had even perfected it into his signature move. But Xia Qi's oil ball was art in Touré's eyes. The calm, long-distance dribbling and pulling of the ball made the movement appear graceful and ethereal, devoid of any worldly embellishment. Touré felt that someone with Xia Qi's footwork shouldn't be an English player. England didn't deserve him. Seeing Xia Qi dribble past his opponent on the edge of the penalty area, Podolski, Diaby, and Arteta immediately charged towards the Manchester City goal in three separate groups. Manchester City fans panicked, their voices cracking as they warned their players, "Danger." At the same time, they booed Xia Qi loudly, hoping to distract him. Xia Qi caught up with the ball without hesitation, as if he had already made his decision. The ball didn't stop for a second, rushing into the penalty area. The fans' boos seemed to distract Xia Qi, so many threatening passes, and he passed to an empty far corner of the goal. HMPH. HMPH. The Manchester City fans had just started to scoff when they realized they were the clowns. Before their eyes, an opposing player rushed into the far corner of the goal, timely extending his leg to block the shot. The ball hit the back of the net. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How could Xia Qi's vision be so wide? This was absolutely a perfectly honed, practiced team move. He was simply passing according to tactical instructions. Chapter 27 is too brutal, averaging one dragon per game. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Manchester City fans couldn't hide the pain on their faces, resolutely refusing to accept that person they used to ignore, but now can't even reach, actually possesses both organizational and attacking talents. They weren't envious or jealous. The black-haired boy before them was so favored by God. They were only envious and jealous of what they once possessed but didn't cherish. Sorry, Mr. Mancini, the champion coach, this time, damn you. On the field, 1 minute earlier, Xia Qi and Podolski were combining on the other side, while Aaron Ramsey on this side wasn't idle either. When it was time to move forward, he moved forward. When it was time to move laterally, he moved laterally. When Xia Qi broke through with his croquet move, he saw an opening. He didn't know if Xia Qi could see it. After all, Xia Qi was organizing an attack on the other side at this moment. But out of Death's intuition, he still silently moved towards the opening in front of the goal. As it turned out, Xia Qi really did see it, and he saw it very early on. The moment he saw Xia Qi pass the ball without stopping it, Aaron Ramsey's heart raced. He immediately forgot to hide his reaction and rushed forward. Just as the ball was about to cross the goal, he stretched out his leg and blocked it, sending the ball into the net. Another unexpected goal. Joe Hart shook his head with his hands on his hips, looking helpless. Aaron Ramsey was overjoyed after scoring and ran towards Xia Qi. Meanwhile, billionaires and celebrities around the world canceled their plans for tomorrow, and some older people even requested that their private doctors be with them 24/7. The game continued. Zico and Aguero began to drop back to support the midfield. Manchester City's tactical level was indeed among the title contenders. With two more supporting players in midfield, the home team gradually gained a slight advantage. Several runs and short passes. David Silva advanced a ball to the edge of the penalty area. A no-look pass found Aguero, who, inside the penalty area, dribbled a few times, creating space, but instead of shooting blindly, feinted a shot and passed directly to Zico, who hadn't been cooperating much. The pass was beautifully executed and far more threatening than a direct shot from Aguero himself. Zico unleashed a powerful shot. The ball was fast and urgent. It seemed like they were about to pull one back, but just as the ball was about to cross the goal line, a pair of gloves appeared before it, and the ball was deflected. Manon had a divine intervention. Both goalkeepers had their moments tonight. That's the magic of football. You never know what's coming next. The deflected ball was chipped to Cazorla by Mertesacker, who played a Rui Costa-esque long through ball. The ball skimmed the grass towards the goalkeeper. The temperature at the Etihad Stadium immediately dropped by several degrees. Manchester City fans erupted in deafening boos, a whirlwind that swept across the entire stadium. Perhaps sensing the overwhelming malice, Xia Qi, who was originally the forward commander, personally charged into the fray. This is so unfair. How could they do this? Seeing Xia Qi lose his composure after being provoked, no longer the calm and collected commander he once was, many female fans from the Shrimp Group clutched their hearts, feeling sorry for him. Actually, they were overthinking it. Xia Qi's golden-edged Ronaldo attribute had simply been activated. Xia Qi's attacking talent was undeniable, and Touré dared not let him charge forward. He called for Sinclair to join in double-teaming Xia Qi. This was the second time the three had faced off. Xia Qi used the outside of his right foot to push the ball forward, simultaneously accelerating. Sinclair was furious. 1 against 2. He wanted to take them down. Touré could tolerate it, but Sinclair couldn't. Touré didn't quite believe Xia Qi would be so reckless. While many immature teenagers could indeed get lost in the boos of the home crowd, Xia Qi always played without emotion. On the field, Xia Qi lowered his right shoulder, stepped outward with his right foot, and shifted his weight significantly. Crucially, Sinclair saw Xia Qi's hips also sink. This was a key sign of shifting his weight. He quickly moved laterally to his left. Touré, disagreeing with him, couldn't afford to play separately, as that would break up the double team. He was forced to follow Sinclair, not giving Xia Qi a chance to pass between them. However, with his extensive experience, he held back. Xia Qi's right foot indeed didn't touch the ball. As Sinclair pushed off with his right foot and shifted laterally, Xia Qi's right foot landed and bounced back as if spring-loaded. He lowered his left shoulder instead. Sinclair, having just completed the shift, cursed inwardly. His face burned, and he quickly changed direction. In a flash, Touré seemed to see through something. He recalled a fitting Chinese proverb, "The mantis stalks the cicada," unaware of the oriole behind. Just as Sinclair completed his second shift, Xia Qi charged towards him, dribbling the ball. As they closed in, Xia Qi twisted his hips east and west, causing Sinclair to stumble and fall. It wasn't that Sinclair was significantly weaker than Xia Qi, but rather that his unsteady center of gravity, coupled with being deliberately outmaneuvered, made him appear vulnerable. Xia Qi had barely knocked Sinclair down and hadn't even had time to make his next move when Touré suddenly darted out from the bushes like a venomous snake, employing a sneaky maneuver. And indeed, he had caught Xia Qi off guard. He had somehow moved behind Xia Qi and suddenly extended his long leg from Xia Qi's side door, poking at the ball. The ball rolled forward. If Sinclair hadn't stumbled and fallen, and had intercepted Xia Qi for a second, Toure, behind Xia Qi, could have overtaken him, a textbook example of a double-team defense. But Sinclair fell. Toure essentially passed a ball to Xia Qi 3 seconds later. He got nowhere. Xia Qi charged forward like a cheetah, instantly widening the distance between himself and Toure. Left back Xia Qi quickly covered, and Xia Qi, running at high speed, suddenly stopped the ball with his foot, simultaneously braking sharply. He then quickly flicked the ball with the back of his right foot, leaning outwards, an outside overtake. A raw momentum was palpable. Xia Qi intercepted without hesitation. Another skillful passing move. The ball came back, and Xia Qi cut inside. Damn it. Xia Qi realized he'd acted recklessly, trying to turn around, but lost his balance and fell. Lescott quickly covered again, intercepting Xia Qi at the edge of the penalty area, 4 or 5 meters from the byline. Xia Qi repeated his old trick, once again flicking the ball out with the back of his right foot, another attempt to outmaneuver Lescott. Lescott confidently held back some energy, knowing Xia Qi's outside shot was already near the goal line. There was no way to overtake him without risking a precipitous fall. He judged Xia Qi would eventually cut inside or pass. Xia Qi dribbled towards the goal line, Lescott shifted to the side, but his conserved energy slowed his pace. Speed is the ultimate weapon. This is a golden rule. With lightning speed, Xia Qi, in the narrow space, before Lescott could shift to the side, appeared like a ghostly phantom. Joe Hart stared in disbelief as Xia Qi, seemingly appearing out of nowhere, emerged from behind Lescott at an almost zero-angle from the goal line. Then, with a look of utter shock, he watched as Xia Qi nestled close to the near post and sent the ball into the net. He devoured Lescott. Shot. Goal. Goal. Xia Qi's solo run shattered the entire defense. 3 games, 3 solo runs to thwart the opponent, an average of 1 solo run per game. So brutal. The brutal emperor reigns supreme at Al Ittihad. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28, He Fooled Himself. The Etihad Stadium fell silent. I thought Lubu was invincible, but I never expected someone even more valiant. And to make matters worse, it was his ex-boyfriend. The Etihad Stadium was sour, furious, and filled with hatred. On the bench, Balotelli shifted anxiously, muttering, "What do I do? 3 goals is too many, I can't catch up." Balotelli was on the verge of tears. He should have told Xia Qi to hold back, to use only 80% of his strength. Now Xia Qi had dug a hole too big for him to fill. Wenger and Pat Rice were already certain that Xia Qi had the potential to become the next Messi. But Xia Qi could also become the next Ronaldo. How to choose? The two were torn. Their feelings were the same as Balotelli's. That damned Xia Qi. He only digs, he doesn't bury. Shortly after the whistle restarted, the referee blew the whistle to end the first half. Manchester City players lowered their heads and quickly fled back to the locker room. Before the match, they expected a tough game, but they didn't anticipate a crushing defeat. Outside the away team's locker room, Balotelli was sneaking around peeking in when the sharp-eyed Gibbs spotted him and ushered him inside. "Mario, what are you doing here? Did some unscrupulous reporter trick you again?" Back at Inter Milan, Balotelli had been persuaded by reporters to wear an AC Milan jersey and even shouted to the cameras, "I love Milan." During match time, not visiting other players' rooms is an unspoken rule, also for the sake of fairness. Xia Qi thought Balotelli had been tricked into coming. If someone leaked this, they would be investigated. So Arteta came out of the locker room to keep watch. "No, I came sneaking in, Xia. The second half is too difficult, your teammates." Xia Qi quickly covered Balotelli's mouth and pressed him firmly against the wall. Xia Qi understood what Balotelli meant. He wanted Xia Qi to tell him the weaknesses of Arsenal's players on the field. Damn, that was close. Arsenal, stabbed twice by Fabregas and Van Persie, are incredibly fragile and not as forgiving of traitors as Manchester City. This winter transfer window, Xia Qi doesn't want to be captain yet. "What? Mario, are you here begging us to go easy on you?" Balotelli struggled desperately, shaking his head, but Xia Qi held him firmly. "You've disappointed me so much, Mario. Do you know? You used to be my idol, the idol of our entire U18 team. Facing difficulties head-on and defeating the strongest is what you should be doing. Without his one-click AFK mode, Xia Qi wasn't as strong as Balotelli. Balotelli finally pried open his hand covering his mouth, gasped for breath, and said, "Too hard, 3 goals. No, you're strong. You have speed, power, and the heart of a champion. Mario, that's death, his technique is outstanding, crush him. This is Carmelo, his defense is tough, crush him. He's Momo, tenacious, crush him. You can do it, you can crush everything, you are a god, you are me, you are the god in everyone's hearts." Balotelli drank the psychological chicken soup Xia Qi had prepared and left happily. In the away team's locker room, after Balotelli left, everyone burst into laughter. Should we play conservatively in the second half? They're practically begging for mercy. Xia Qi said righteously, "No, don't forget Istanbul." Xia Qi is right, now is not the time to pop the champagne. The second half began. Manchester City made a personnel change, Balotelli replacing Sinclair. Switching from a 4-4-2 formation to 4-3-3. Arsenal won but didn't change their formation. As soon as the whistle blew, Balotelli and Zico charged towards Xia Qi. Xia Qi passed the ball back in a triangular motion to Arteta. Seeing even the imposing Xia Qi back down, Balotelli gained more confidence and turned to chase after Arteta. Arteta glanced at Balotelli, then looked up into the distance. His intention was to pass the ball when Balotelli was close enough. However, he misjudged Balotelli's speed. Balotelli accelerated twice during his sprint, and by the time Arteta reacted, Balotelli was already in front of him. In a panic, Arteta could only continue passing the ball backward. Balotelli discovered that speed really worked, and his trust in Xia Qi reached a new level. A voice, almost hypnotically, chanted in his mind, "Crush them, crush them." Under the hypnotic influence of the voice, a strange power surged through Balotelli's body. His speed increased again, and he continued chasing the ball. At this moment, the football was as dangerous as a bomb. Cazorla judged that he wasn't as fast as Balotelli, and he couldn't let Balotelli carry this bomb into the penalty area. So he issued a yellow card, bringing Balotelli down just outside the box. Only 2.5 minutes into the second half, Manchester City won a free kick just outside the penalty area. Balotelli took the free kick himself. He took 3 steps back, silently chanting, "Power, power, power." After the whistle blew, he took a run up, unleashed a powerful shot, and the football traced a beautiful rainbow as it nestled into the goal. The angle of the rainbow wasn't particularly tricky, but the speed of the ball was incredible. Manon was powerless to stop it. Manchester City pulled one back, temporarily trailing 1-3. After scoring, Balotelli didn't celebrate with his teammates, but instead rushed towards Xia Qi. However, Xia Qi remained expressionless, except for a hint of embarrassment and helplessness in his eyes. "Xia, I scored. Your method is so effective." Balotelli didn't seem to care that Xia Qi didn't respond. In his mind, if Xia Qi had no flaws, how could they have become good friends? Xia Qi's eyes couldn't speak, otherwise they would tell Balotelli, "Your whole family has flaws, but I think you're a good person." Balotelli's behavior would certainly cause controversy, but he was known worldwide for his ruthlessness. So Manchester City fans didn't blame their son's womanizing, but instead blamed Xia Qi, this vixen. They hurled insults at their former rising star, saying whatever was most offensive. In the end, even Mancini, Zico, and Torre couldn't stand it anymore and gestured for silence. The game continued, and Balotelli became even more active, boosting Manchester City's morale. Arsenal's possession was lost by Torre after a few passes. David Silva received the ball and chose the strongest attacking point on the field, Balotelli. Balotelli turned and surged forward the moment David Silva passed the ball. At the same time, ding, host detected in trouble, golden-edged Ronaldo, attribute activated. Xia Qi in his mind was shocked. The AI's thinking was very different from that of humans, actually letting golden-edged Ronaldo participate in defense. What a waste. But upon reflection, it didn't seem wrong. Precise target in search. Ding, target locked. As soon as the voice in his mind fell, Xia Qi immediately rushed towards the football. On the field, 2 different colored lightning bolts rushed forward, the 2 evenly matched in speed. But at the moment of touching the ball, Xia Qi suddenly exerted force, forcefully squeezing Balotelli aside. Manchester City fans were shocked and immediately sent Xia Qi a whole family's greeting. However, under the blessing of the speed, magic sound, Balotelli once again unleashed his primal power. He closed in from behind Xia Qi, and as Xia Qi was about to kick the ball out of bounds, he stretched out his leg to defend. His left leg looped around Xia Qi's body, preemptively kicking the ball to Aguero without even touching Xia Qi. This was a goalkeeper-class tackle, worthy of Cannavaro. Wow! Beautiful! Balotelli, long live! Manchester City fans went from anger to jubilation in an instant, Balotelli's name shining brightly in the Etihad Stadium sky. In the first half, the domineering Xia Qi, who had been able to get whatever he wanted, was finally overpowered by someone else's blood. Manchester City fans felt that their excitement was justified. Xia Qi had completely fooled them. They had created a god out of thin air. The course of this match was similar to the one where Inzaghi's Inter Milan came back from a 3-0 deficit to defeat Benfica 3-0. Of course, for the sake of excitement, the final score wouldn't be 3-3. Chapter 29, Balotelli's comeback from 0-3 down, Balotelli time. On the pitch, Aguero dribbled the ball and charged quickly towards the penalty area. Balotelli, with tremendous force, followed suit. Xia Qi chased after him, and Manchester City's tactical prowess became apparent. Zico cut inside from Balotelli's side, blocking Xia Qi and drawing him away. This was a cross run, similar to pick and roll in basketball. Gibbs intercepted Aguero, but the ball was passed to Balotelli the moment he was about to kick. Mertesacker, in the penalty area, dared not tackle, but instead shifted his weight, positioning himself in front of Balotelli. Logically, Balotelli should have tried to dribble past him or create a shooting angle. However, Balotelli unleashed a reckless, powerful shot, as if Mertesacker were nothing. Yet, the ball evaded Mertesacker and hurtled towards the goal. Manon, his vision obstructed, waited until the ball had passed Mertesacker before diving, but it was too late. 2-3. Just 16 minutes into the second half, Arsenal conceded 2 goals. Balotelli scored twice. Manchester City saw a chance to equalize or even take the lead. Overwhelmed by sudden joy, Manchester City fans started taunting the crowd in the stands. They placed their palms to their eyebrows, mimicking gazing into the distance and looking around, chanting, "Where's Xia Qi?" mocking Xia Qi's earlier defensive ineffectiveness after being taken away by Zico. They tried to provoke Xia Qi, but their expressions backfired. Xia Qi remained unchanged. After scoring, Balotelli didn't run to Xia Qi but instead rushed to the stands, boldly removing his jersey to reveal his muscular physique. Some female fans immediately whistled, making the already frenzied Etihad Stadium even more heated. Only Mancini stomped his feet in frustration. A yellow card might change the course of the game. The match continued, and Arsenal played cautiously. Keep pressing them, make quick runs down the flanks, David, create more passing options, and for the final pass, give the ball to Mario. Toure, Clichy, you two keep an eye on Xia Qi. After winning the ball, pass it to Mario immediately. Zico, you and Aguero make more overlapping runs. If you're stuck, pass the ball to Mario. Mancini stood confidently on the sidelines, constantly shouting and directing. His core tactic was simple, give the ball to Kobe. In the 61st minute, Manchester City trailed 2-3. From 0-3 to 2-3, Manchester City took only 16 minutes. This speed of comeback ignited the passion of all Manchester City players. They began running tirelessly back and forth, constantly searching for every weakness in Arsenal's defenses. Arsenal entered a period of stagnation, and Xia Qi simultaneously activated both a pseudo-Messi and golden-edged Ronaldo attributes. Returning to the midfield and attacking third, he formed a dual-core configuration with Arteta, but it still couldn't change their predicament of being on the back foot. The football field is like a battlefield, with an inexplicable momentum at play. Manchester City is currently riding high, dominating the momentum. On the field, after a few passes, the ball reaches Xia Qi's feet. Balotelli, seemingly appearing out of nowhere, charges at Xia Qi. Xia Qi catches the ball firmly at his feet. Boom! A dull thud of flesh impacts. Xia Qi is heartbroken. He knows how tough Balotelli's body is, his own physique is far inferior. There will definitely be several bruises, and even small cracks in the bones. What a mess. He must have been bewitched to provoke Balotelli's fighting spirit. Balotelli, seeing that his forceful collision has actually hurt him, is not only surprised but also slightly moved. Xia, showing your best performance is a sign of respect for the strongest player like me. Then I must respect him too. Crush him, crush him. Balotelli begins to hypnotize himself, going head-to-head with Xia Qi, even though he doesn't actually have the task of defending against Xia Qi. The two charged forward, Balotelli repeatedly ramming Xia Qi with his shoulder. Xia Qi, unfazed, took all the blows, his steps completely unaffected, calmly protecting the ball between his feet as he nonchalantly continued his bicycle kick. Their raw, unskilled sparring made the Etihad Stadium increasingly quiet. The quieter it became, the louder the dull thuds of their bodies colliding grew, and the louder the sounds, the quieter the stadium became. Boom, 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 boom. The fans were initially quite excited. Getting to watch an extra rugby game for free was always a treat. But as they watched, the pain grew, and then parents with children covered their kids' eyes. The two clashed and bumped into each other, entering the penalty area. Lescott rushed in front of Xia Qi, preparing to cooperate with Balotelli to intercept the ball. Just as Lescott was about to reach him, Xia Qi swiftly flicked the ball laterally to the center. Podolski burst out from the side, ignoring Kompany's harassment, and preemptively passed the ball back behind Lescott. A stroke of genius. To the surprise of most Manchester City players, Xia Qi bypassed Lescott and chased after the ball. Most people refers to Balotelli. Balotelli's football IQ is indeed higher than most. He anticipated the move and reached the ball ahead of everyone else. However, he didn't immediately clear the ball with a long kick, a replay of Balotelli's on-field contemplation. At that moment, Xia Qi charged in, fiercely colliding with him. Balotelli, still reeling, flew backward, but Xia Qi also staggered backward. Seeing Joe Hart about to pounce, in his staggering motion, AI controlled Xia Qi's body, sweeping the ball forward. The ball skimmed across the grass, and Joe Hart, like a whirlwind, made a diving save, firmly catching the ball on the goal line. Damn. A double-edged sword. Yet defeated by a god. Tonight, Joe Hart is the second god after Balotelli. Wenger shook his head helplessly. Xia Qi had done his best, and now he needed help. Arsenal began making substitutions, with Chamberlain and Walcott replacing Aaron Ramsey and Diaby respectively. Wenger wanted to bring on two young players to harass Manchester City's defense and relieve the pressure on Xia Qi. The game continued, and Joe Hart threw the ball to Clichy, who floored the accelerator and sped forward. After crossing the center circle, he passed the ball to David Silva. David Silva and Javi Garcia played a 1-2, and the ball landed at the edge of the penalty area, where Zico headed it on. Balotelli, holding off Mertesacker in the penalty area, forced a turn and shot. For some reason, Chamberlain, who had just been substituted, appeared in front of the goal and, as if possessed, reached out to slap the ball. Beep. Beep. The referee blew his whistle, rushed to Gibbs, and showed him a red card. In an instant, Arsenal, my teammates and I were stunned. Chamberlain stepped forward to explain that it was his handball. The referee pointed to his eyes, telling everyone that he saw it clearly. It was Gibbs. Gibbs's protests were fruitless, and he could only leave the field in humiliation. Balotelli took the penalty and converted it, 3-3. Balotelli completed his hat-trick in the first half, leading Manchester City on a desperate comeback to tie the score at 3-3. This was a thrilling match, showcasing the drama of football to its fullest. There were excellent plays in both halves for Arsenal and Manchester City, Wenger and Mancini's personnel strategies, and the referee's dramatic performance. Now both sides are back to square one, but Arsenal are down to 10 men, and the momentum is tilting in the home team's favor. Chamberlain's handball in the penalty area, and the referee sending off Gibbs, is not something the author made up, it's a true story. Premier League referees, well, there are quite a few stories about them. If you're interested, I can write them all down in an article. But I'm afraid you won't like them. Chapter 30 is all about thrills and the ultimate kill. Wenger made a decisive substitution, replacing Podolski with Brazilian left-back Andre Santos. Clearly, the professor had given up hope of 3 points, he only wanted to secure one. On the pitch, Manchester City were in high spirits, creating at least 4 dangerous shots in the 10 minutes between the 72nd and 82nd minutes. Arsenal, on the other hand, had none. The disparity in strength between the two sides was obvious. Arsenal still can't break through. Xia Qi lacks support. He controlled the first ball, but without support from the second and third points, he can't fight against overwhelming odds. Just as the fans were lamenting Xia Qi's situation, a dramatic scene unfolded on the field. In the 85th minute, Cazorla's long kick to intercept David Silva's pass went awry. The ball hit the referee, bounced high, and just as Zico dropped back to receive the ball, he flicked it to Aguero. This flick was unexpected for Arsenal. Usually, they would have passed the ball back to midfield to reorganize their attack. Aguero seized the opportunity, quickly drifting down the wing. His 10-meter sprint, with lightning speed, pierced through Jenkinson. Before Mertesacker could cover, Aguero feigned a shot, but as his left foot touched the ball, it went straight into the middle. Arsenal's defense made another serious misjudgment. Kompany, who had been invisible, suddenly appeared out of nowhere, sprinting into the penalty area and unleashing a low shot. In the chaos, Koscielny and Manon, one trying to block and the other diving to their side, couldn't stop the ball as it skimmed the grass into the net. Mancini used the tactic favored by Italian coaches, the defenders pushing forward to assist, tenaciously turning the tide 4-3. The deafening cheers at the Etihad Stadium echoed throughout Manchester. Except for Xia Qi, all the Arsenal players were dejected and disappointed. They never imagined they would experience the same feeling they had in the summer of 2005 with AC Milan. They were incredibly lucky. Xia Qi was actually the most disappointed. Half a year of happiness had turned into this. The game continued, and the once impressive Balotelli no longer had the stamina to keep up with Xia Qi's pace. Mancini used zonal marking to contain Xia Qi, making it much easier for him to break through. In the 88th minute, Xia Qi made a diagonal run into the penalty area. Arteta delivered a precise diagonal pass, and Xia Qi, amidst the tug-of-war between Clichy and Lescott, managed to push the ball into the center. Chamberlain burst through the crowd and unleashed a powerful shot, sending the ball flying into the stands. Manchester City then responded with a shot of their own. Balotelli aggressively shoved aside the newly substituted Santos and fired a shot towards the near post, which hit the post and was caught by Manon. Manchester City missed a chance to seal the victory. The two sides completed the regular 90 minutes of play, with Manchester City leading Arsenal 4-3. When the LED screen displayed 5 minutes of added time, Manchester City fans booed the referee who had brought them luck. Faced with this result, Xia Qi was naturally unwilling to accept it. The AI seemed to sense Xia Qi's emotions, making even more frequent runs on both ends of the pitch. Balotelli, Toure, and others, panting heavily, watched Xia Qi's departing figure with a mixture of helplessness and envy. How could he still run so fast at a time like this? Little did they know that Xia Qi was actually pushing his body to its limits, but this time he did it willingly, without cursing the system. Xia Qi's efforts also moved his teammates. His hair, soaked in water, his jersey stained with every speck of dirt, and his heavy breathing that could be heard from afar all spoke volumes. "I'm exhausted." But even so exhausted, he continued running, chasing every possibility on the field. Chamberlain and Walcott finally realized where they fell short compared to Xia Qi. They no longer held back their energy, striving to create opportunities for Xia Qi. In the 92nd minute, Balotelli once again charged into the penalty area, drawing Arsenal's defensive pressure before making a surprisingly intelligent backheel pass. It was both spectacular and deadly. Zico followed up in the middle and unleashed a powerful shot. Manon caught the ball with both hands, but the force of the shot was too great, and he lost his grip. Wasn't this a windfall? Was fate about to punish Arsenal? Manchester City's forwards rushed forward like a swarm of bees, but Manon reacted faster. He made 2 consecutive dives to catch the ball, but he didn't wait for the crowd in front of the goal to clear before getting up. Instead, he quickly stood up and charged forward, throwing the ball like pork pie. At the same time, he roared to the sky, "Ha, charge!" A figure leaped high, headed the ball, stopped it in front, landed, and then charged forward, dribbling the ball towards the Manchester City goal. Mancini's face changed drastically, and he rushed from the bench to the sidelines, shouting as he ran, "Defend! Quickly, retreat!" In the stands, the Manchester City fans who had been singing their team anthem panicked, chanting, "Foul! Break his leg!" Inside the Etihad Stadium, the Arsenal fans, who were only a minority, jumped up from their seats, waving their fists and shouting at the top of their lungs, "Charge! Charge!" Manchester City had been on a massive offensive, committing almost 90% of their players, and now only Xia and Lescott remained in defense. Xia signaled Lescott to retreat, then charged towards Xia Qi, hoping to get a red or yellow card to stop him. As he ran, Xia Qi glanced at him before looking towards the goal. Joe Hart was indeed the best player for Manchester City tonight besides Balotelli. He hadn't given Xia Qi a chance to lob the ball. So be it. The two men, about to meet, wore their intentions on their sleeves. Just before the ball was about to pass, Xia Qi passed it behind Xia. Xia, seeing this, knew Xia Qi was trying to outmaneuver him and immediately lunged to grab him. It was a red card offense, but at that moment, it was worth it. However, Xia Qi had anticipated this move. He made a wide arc, overtaking on the outside. Xia missed. Xia Qi pushed all the way to the edge of the penalty area, where Lescott was waiting menacingly in his path. As Xia Qi ran, he passed a ball to within a step of Lescott. In a flash, Lescott didn't have time to think about whether it was a trap. He was taking advantage of the opportunity. Instinctively, he stretched out his leg for the ball. Instinct. But at that moment, another foot, not his own, landed, tapping the ball and changing its direction. Lescott, thankful for his defensive experience and for not using all his strength, immediately changed direction and charged towards Xia Qi. But Xia Qi's other foot caught the ball back. At the same time, Xia Qi leaned his body in the direction the ball had rolled. Lescott's alarm bells rang. That was Xia Qi's breakthrough direction. But what good did knowing it now do? He barely managed to change direction again, and with a thud, he tripped and fell. How you? Manchester City fans were terrified. They didn't want their hopes to be dashed, so they booed Xia Qi relentlessly, even threatening him. Kid, if you dare to break through, I'll break your legs. Kid, this is your former team, watch out for divine retribution. Kid, stop right now, or I'll beat you every time I see you. To be continued. I know it's painful to have a gap in the chapter. I'm trying my best to write and will try to release it tonight. Also, please give me monthly tickets and recommendation tickets. It seems like I entered the overall rankings, but I fell out again before I even got comfortable. Chapter 31 is all about thrills and the ultimate kill. On the field, Xia Qi, of course, wouldn't stop, putting all the pressure on Joe Hart. He and Xia Qi were teammates and friends. He knew that Xia Qi, in a match-ready state, was as precise as a machine and rarely made mistakes. Although he was in top form tonight, saving two of Xia Qi's shots, it didn't mean he could save a third. Seeing Xia Qi dribble past Lescott, he decisively chose to rush out. If Xia Qi were human at this moment, he would either rush in like Ronaldo, using a pendulum dribble to get past his opponent and then tapping the ball into the empty net, or like Robin, getting close, feinting left and right, and then unleashing a powerful shot. But AI has no emotions. He did something that no human had ever done in football history. Humans had never even considered such a method. He chose to pull the ball back quickly, creating distance from Joe Hart, then chipped a ball over him and chipped it into the net. When the ball hit the back of the net, the whole world was stunned. It turned out that facing a goalkeeper's attack, besides going in, one could also retreat. Before this goal, it was a blind spot for humanity. After it happened, it seemed so natural. The media praised Xia Qi's composure and his leaps of thought. In the days that followed, this goal not only appeared repeatedly on sports channels but also on other channels, especially educational ones. Many lecturers and professors included this goal in their teaching PowerPoint presentations, encouraging students to think outside the box and embrace the world. In short, Xia Qi became a sensation. On the field, after equalizing, Xia Qi coldly swept past Joe Hart and retrieved the ball from the net. Arsenal players rushed towards him to celebrate the equalizer, but Xia Qi's action of retrieving the ball showed them that the equalizer was just the beginning. The decisive goal was the end. It was now the 93rd minute, with 2 minutes remaining. A decisive goal only existed in theory. But humans have impulses and passionate emotions. The flame hidden beneath Xia Qi's icy exterior ignited their fighting spirit and inspired them to be a little childlike again. A man is a boy until he dies. Mertesacker, already a father of two, shouted to Captain Arteta, "Let's fight. I'm fed up with draws. Let's fight, Captain. Let's fight, Captain." Arteta was even more fired up. How many years had it been since Arsenal had been so spirited? Brothers, let's fight together and give them a last-minute victory. Let's fight together. Let's turn the impossible into possible. Arsenal, voice cracks. Arteta looked around, raised his fist, and shouted, "Invincible," voice cracks. "Arsenal, invincible. Arsenal, invincible." Arsenal, united and full of fighting spirit, even demanded that Manchester City players not waste time, urging them to hurry up and finish the game. This attitude angered Manchester City players and fans, leading to verbal altercation on the field, which further provoked the fans in the stands. But in the end, Xia Qi silently recited everything. From the south section of the Manchester City die-hard fans section, a pig's head suddenly fell from the stands. The match was thus interrupted. Wenger rushed towards the referee, demanding extra time and protesting the rude behavior to the fourth official. Mancini suddenly remembered he had his substitution left. He hadn't thought he could use it, but now, for safety's sake, he used it. Kolarov, number 13, and Decisive, number 33, came on 2 minutes before the final whistle, replacing Aguero and Lescott. While the rest of the Arsenal players rushed towards the fans and the referee in protest, only the two of them ran to Xia Qi and gently embraced him. The icy Xia Qi remained expressionless, but the Xia Qi in his mind was moved to tears. "Mario, I'll never lie to you again. Mom, thank you, I'm not that fragile." Xia Qi is very strong. Although tears were welling up in his eyes, his face remained calm. Mediocrity is the only thing that doesn't attract envy. Keep it up, Xia Qi. That's really going too far. How could you hide a pig's head? Could you throw knives at Fabregas and Van Persie? Manchester City wanted to sell them. Xia Qi didn't complain about leaving. Xia Qi, stay strong. We love you. Balotelli is telling the fans to shut up. From now on, Balotelli will always be my god. This is what competitive sports should be like. After a brief interlude, the game continued. Time was running out, Manchester City kicked off, and were immediately subjected to Arsenal's full-court press. This was exactly what Manchester City wanted. Even if tonight's Arsenal were the same Arsenal with the O on their chest, the money-driven Manchester City wouldn't be afraid. Arteta pressed forward, and Toure pushed the ball behind him. Javi Garcia received the ball and launched a 45-meter through ball, precisely tearing apart Arsenal's defense. Balotelli, on the left side of Arsenal's penalty area, chested the ball down, then deftly dribbled past Jenkinson, creating shooting angle before unleashing his signature move, a powerful, controlled shot. Jenkinson, out of balance from Balotelli's outmaneuver, was desperately turning his head towards the goal when he saw a teammate's figure appear in front of the ball. It was Chamberlain. Last time, he was in the penalty area, committing a handball that led to Gibbs' red card. He became the team's villain. This time, he redeemed himself by blocking the shot with his body. He would never have done something so reckless before. Balotelli's powerful shot, while not necessarily fatal, could easily have kept someone in the hospital for days. But tonight, he was moved. At this moment, his mind was filled only with victory, teamwork, and the decisive goal. A deafening boom echoed throughout the stadium, demonstrating Balotelli's immense power. Chamberlain was sent flying backwards, the ball bouncing high out of the penalty area. Cazorla and David Silva, locked in a fierce struggle, charged forward together. The turning point came during their scramble. Many timid fans closed their eyes in fear, silently praying to some deity. Cazorla proved himself to be Arsenal's reliable nanny. He won. The ball reached Arteta's feet, then flew towards the edge of Manchester City's penalty area. Kolarov, who had just come on as a substitute for Manchester City, was rushing towards the ball when he heard shouts from the fans, "Watch out! Danger! That kid's coming!" He was terrified, his hair standing on end. Before he could react, a gust of wind swept past his ear. Xia Qi had overtaken him. A direct hit. Another direct hit. Manchester City fans were stunned, then immediately reacted, shouting, "Time's up! Blow the whistle! Corrupt referee! Blow the whistle now!" Some even impersonated the referee and blew the final whistle. On the pitch, Decisive rushed forward to intercept, but Xia Qi, at high speed, flicked the ball up, sending it flying over Decisive's head. A dribble past Decisive. Decisive tried desperately to stop his forward momentum and attempted a forced turn, but the combined effect of the two movements resulted in a fall. Haste makes waste, no matter where you are. Xia Qi dribbled past his opponent, took a touch of the ball, and stormed into the penalty area in one fluid motion. Company, disregarding the possibility of a red card, charged directly at Xia Qi, not the ball. Xia Qi brought the ball to his feet, slightly turned his body, like a towering cliff blocking a crashing wave. Then, calmly, he unleashed a powerful shot. The ball whistled towards the goal like a cannonball. Before Joe Hart could reach it, it had already burst into the net. Joe Hart, who had made 2 crucial saves against Xia Qi, finally succumbed to Xia Qi's deadly strike 4'5", 94 minutes and 23 seconds. A last-minute winner. Can you imagine? This is football. How can you not love football? It's all about the thrill of a last-minute goal. On this night of a dramatic comeback, how can you not love football? Tonight, if you didn't watch the game, you're missing out big time. If you did watch, it will be etched in your mind, becoming a part of your memory. On the bumpy road ahead, it will always inspire you. On the sad, rainy nights ahead, it will guide you through the rain to find the light. Chapter 32 The London Derby. Watching football can make you cry. Xia Qi was moved to tears. By the 90th minute, he had already given up. Down to 10 men, trailing by 1 point, and facing 2 formidable opponents. Tonight seemed destined to be a night of tears. However, the AI didn't give up, relentlessly searching for every possibility. The AI manipulated his body, each step pushing Xia Qi's limits, but this time, Xia Qi felt no pangs of regret. For the first time, he felt it was nothing. He truly understood, football is above life and death. When Captain Arteta shouted, "Arsenal, unbeaten," Xia Qi cried. He suddenly understood why Liverpool had created a miracle in Istanbul. He believed that on that night, Gerrard and others must have also shouted, "Reds, forward." Xia Qi wanted to thank Tongja. If it were in auto mode, tonight he would definitely be the protagonist of a night of disaster, not a participant in a night of miracles. He was proud to be a participant in a night of miracles. This is football. How can you not love it? Beep. The referee blew the final whistle. Xia Qi felt the support holding him up quickly fade, his legs buckled, but he didn't fall. Chamberlain and Walcott helped him up, one on each side. "Thank you. Can we train together when we get back?" "Of course." Sometimes, male friendship is that simple. The 3 men smiled at each other, and from that moment on, they were brothers. A voice whispered in his ear, "Ding, the match has ended, rewards are being calculated." The host played 95 minutes in this match, participation A+, performance S+, reward 10 attribute points. Ding, the host has won the Premier League Man of the Match award, reward 5 attribute points. Ding, regional legend +1. Ding, regional legend +1. With friends around and achievements whispering in his ear, Xia Qi found himself loving football more and more. At the post-match press conference, Mancini said, "Tonight's match was very disappointing and heartbreaking. We could have left with smiles. I am proud of all the players who played tonight, especially in the second half. They showed the fighting spirit of a warrior. Unfortunately, we lost to a god." Xia Qi was a god tonight. He dominated the entire match. I admit that selling him was a mistake. It is very likely the most unprofitable and foolish deal of the century. Wenger said, "The kids were all great. Before applauding Xia Qi, shouldn't we first applaud Chamberlain? The doctor said that the boy needs a week of rest. What a brave and iron-willed boy." Besides Chamberlain, other players also deserve applause, such as Manon, Cazorla, Arteta. Yes, Xia Qi has organizational talent. To be honest, our coaching staff is having a headache right now. We don't know whether Messi or Ronaldo is a better role model for him. The next day, Xia Qi and Arsenal naturally dominated all the sports sections of the British media. Miracle Boy creates another miracle night. Wenger picks up the bargain, Arsenal rises. Ferguson's worst fear has come true, that Arsenal is back. After the 9,320 miracle, Xia Qi created the 9,423 miracle, and from then on, he was known as Miracle Boy. The Miracle Boy craze has also swept into China, and the total number of Arsenal fans in China is rapidly catching up with Manchester United. At home, Xia Qi opened his attribute panel, host, Xia Qi born age. 18 years old height. 187 centimeters, 189 cm, weight. 80 kilograms host ability value. 78 allocable ability points. 0 allocable attribute points. 85 quickly max out strength, but the system prompts that it can only be increased to 98, strength 8,598, 72 allocable attributes remain. A warm current flows through his body, and Xia Qi feels like he has grown bigger again. I wonder if his kidney essence has been replenished? Speed was originally 74, and explosive power was 85. Later, after the Jaguar speed training, both speeds were 95. Xia Qi wanted to max them out, but could only increase them to 97. The system prompts that speed and endurance are related. Speed 9597, explosive power 9597, endurance is being worked hard to improve because of Park San-lung's perpetual motion machine skill. Adding points now would be a waste. With 68 points remaining, Xia Qi thought for a moment and adjusted his vision from 70 to 95, jumping from 75 to 86, agility from 75 to 85, and balance from 72 to 94. While the attributes seemed plentiful, they weren't exactly cheap. The final attribute panel looked like this: host, Xia Qi, born age 18 years old, height 187 centimeters, 189 cm, weight 85 kilograms, host ability value 85 allocable ability points, 0 allocable attribute points, 0. Finally, even without the system, he had a fighting chance. Want to grab a drink? On September 19th, the Champions League group stage began. Arsenal was in Group B. Their opponents were Montpellier from Ligue 1, Olympiacos from Greece, and Schalke 04 from the Bundesliga. This round, Arsenal played away against Montpellier. After Xia Qi was substituted off against Manchester City, he was severely exhausted, and the team doctor immediately gave him a day off. Actually, Xia Qi could play after using the attribute points, but he was afraid it would be too shocking, so he didn't announce it. He watched the live broadcast at home. Giroud and Podolski each scored a goal, helping Arsenal defeat their opponents 1-2 away. Olympiacos, initially considered a weak team in their group, beat Schalke 04 2-1 at home. This served as a wake-up call for Arsenal. There are no weak teams in the Champions League. Every match must be played with utmost care. After returning to London, Arsenal faced the EFL Cup. After the draw, Arsenal hosted Coventry City. The EFL Cup was seen as a formality by the Big Six, unlike the FA Cup, which was a real competition. Of course, these things were kept secret. If leaked, the Big Six wouldn't admit it. Xia Qi and Chamberlain continued to rest, while Podolski, Cazorla, and Arteta were also rested. Arsenal, with a semi-first team and semi-substitute squad, unleashed a devastating 6-1 victory at home. They successfully advanced to the fourth round. They will face Reading away on October 31st. Wenger thought he was being shameless by secretly resting several key players for the Premier League, but Mancini of Manchester City was even more shameless, as they actually lost to Aston Villa. After the match, Manchester United, having advanced, accused Manchester City, "The Italians don't respect English traditions." Mancini explained, feeling wronged, "We faced two strong opponents in a row, Arsenal and Real Madrid, and the players were extremely tired, which is why we lost to Villa. The FA's schedule is too unfair to us. Obviously, someone doesn't want us to defend our title." This sounds reasonable, but damn it, Manchester City didn't even field their strongest lineup. Where did the players' fatigue come from? The media is well aware of the prestige of the EFL Cup, and only a coach like Mourinho, with a penchant for collecting titles, would go to such lengths. Mancini's choice is the normal one. So the media didn't dwell on it. They turned their attention to the London derby that was about to begin this Sunday. London may be the region with the most derbies in the world, with 12 teams competing in the various levels of English professional leagues. The Arsenal-Chelsea derby is just one of them. In the hearts of Arsenal fans, there is only one derby, Tottenham Hotspur at White Hart Lane. However, Mourinho's rise to power with Chelsea reshaped the London power landscape. Furthermore, the combative Mourinho stirred up rivalries everywhere, creating derbies across London. To distinguish them from other derbies, they are called the Greater London Derby. Currently, it is the most popular derby in the Premier League, while the Manchester Derby is still in its early stages and its influence cannot compare. Now that Mourinho has left, the fervor of the Greater London Derby continues. On Sunday, the London police were mobilized. Chapter 33 3-ball bailout, tonight's massacre. Sunday morning at 8 a.m., the morning news. Good weekend, viewers. Today is the London Derby day, and the weather is perfect. London is enjoying exceptionally good weather. According to our reporters on the ground, over 30,000 Chelsea fans have already gathered on the south bank of the Thames, and the number is still increasing. Jack, watching on TV, angrily slammed his fist on the table and cursed, "Those sons of bitches." The Emirates Stadium, with 59,000 seats, sold less than 20,000 tickets to their South Bank rivals. These shameless bastards had actually rallied more than double that number of northern troops. These weren't tourists. Nor were they the cowards of White Hart Lane. They were, in fact, formidable, respectable, and terrifying enemies. North London citizens and police were on high alert, or rather, trembling with fear. Trembling with fear. Don't be fooled by Mike and the Arsenal fans' denials, their actions spoke louder than words. Many Arsenal families sent their underage children to their parents' homes, while they themselves carried baseball bats. Jack had just put a baseball bat in the trunk of his car, and his wife, Terry, not only didn't stop him but also thoughtfully prepared a first aid kit for him. When Xia Qi saw Terry kindly ask Jack what else he needed besides iodine, bandages, and painkillers, it was as if a gentle yet alluring voice was saying, "Big brother, it's time to take your medicine." He couldn't help but shudder. Was this a loving partner? Or a British version of Panjinlian? "Hi, good morning. Excuse me for interrupting, are you going to the football match? To me, it looks like you're going to war. Xia, will you play tonight?" "I don't know, but I'm on the boss's roster." "Then you'll score, right?" "Of course, that's my duty and job." "Then that's for sure." "For sure what?" Xia Qi was completely bewildered. He didn't know how infamous he was now. Arsenal fans affectionately called him the Ice Cream Prince, and Chinese fans called him the Snow Prince. But in other people's eyes, he's called the Brutal Emperor. A one-man race per game. The evil dragon monster. In the hearts of Arsenal fans, a prince who has scored 12 goals in 3 games, averaging 4 goals per game, returning to his home ground, wouldn't he be crowned emperor? If you were to achieve a perfect record, given Chelsea's thuggish nature, it would be strange if they didn't cause a ruckus in North London. Tonight, defend the Emirates Stadium, defend North London. Seeing Xia Qi's confused expression, Jack didn't explain much. After all, Xia Qi's connection to Manchester and North London wasn't deep enough. It didn't matter if he didn't understand. Didn't you see, in the last game, he was more Arsenal than any other Arsenal player? It was his desperate run in the face of adversity that ignited the entire Arsenal team, leading to an epic last-minute victory. Jack believed that before long, Xia Qi would also become one of them, and then he, like Terry, would be preparing his own medicine and weapons. "Xia, why aren't you at the colony training ground yet? You're going to be late." And Jack wanted to say, "And you absolutely have to score tonight," but he didn't want to put pressure on Xia Qi, so he swallowed the words back. "Oh, I'm off then." Actually, Xia Qi wasn't completely clueless, but he felt they were exaggerating. The Russians were more domineering, their iron fists conquering the world. On his way to work, Xia Qi sensed a different atmosphere. Along the way, when passing other cars, they would shout, "Arsenal, King of London." Xia Qi was now Arsenal's Ice Cream Prince, and his car was widely known. While waiting at a traffic light, a mounted policeman knocked on his car window and said to Xia Qi, "Mr. Emperor, you can score goals with confidence. Those crawlers from the South Bank, I've got them covered. They can't cause any trouble." Xia Qi was flattered. There was only one emperor at Arsenal, and that was 32-year-old Henry, sitting there, his affectionate gaze fixed on the shadow of his 22-year-old self. Flattered, Xia Qi gestured a 6+1 hand gesture popular in Chinese communities to the mounted police. This gesture comes from a very popular Chinese TV show hosted by the popular actor Li Yuang, and it's interpreted as "I love you." However, the British didn't understand. When the mounted police were chatting with colleagues after starting work, they discussed Xia Qi's 6+1 gesture. Perhaps due to their habit of early drinking, these officers in North London were already rambling on. The Ice Cream Prince meant he'd beat Chelsea 3 goals. Number gestures aren't universally accepted. In Europe, numbers above 5 require 2 hands, while numbers below 5 can only be represented with 1 hand. In Britain, the gesture for 3 is the thumb tucked under the little finger, with the middle 3 fingers extended, far different from Xia Qi's gesture. "Then why not do it like that?" another colleague countered, demonstrating the correct 3 gesture. "The thumbs up means great, and His Highness means more than 3, perfect. Genius. Time to give the tabloids a heads up and earn some money for football betting." An article titled "Ice Cream Prince, 3 goals to cover, tonight's massacre feast" circulated before the match. Pictures and proof were provided. The 6+1 hand gesture immediately became a common greeting among Arsenal fans. Meanwhile, Chelsea fans, filled with rage, began their northward march. Nearly 40,000 Chelsea fans, carrying club and supporter association flags, wearing matching blue jerseys, and singing their team anthem, marched across the Thames Bridge, escorted by 2 helicopters, numerous police cars, and countless mounted police, heading towards the Emirates Stadium. This was equivalent to nearly 40,000 people walking from Pudong to Hong Kong. When news of their crossing reached them, tens of thousands of Arsenal fans, dressed in red and white jerseys, left their homes and converged on the Emirates Stadium. Before the match even started, the fans were already vying for dominance. Arsenal fans were determined not to allow those shameless Chelsea fans to turn the Emirates Stadium into their home ground. The atmosphere at the Colney training ground was also completely different from usual. There was a sense of impending doom. There was no tactical or physical training today, we just did some relaxing games in the morning. During the lunch break, Wenger announced the starting lineup. At 5 p.m., the team bus drove out of the training ground. In the Emirates Stadium Square, Arsenal and Chelsea fans stood clearly separated in different areas. Seeing the Arsenal bus approach the entrance, Arsenal fans spontaneously lined both sides of the entrance, clapping. Although no one was directing them, their applause was synchronized and quite impressive. Seeing Xia Qi looking out the window, the fans made a 6+1 gesture to him. Xia Qi, who had been at the training ground all day, had no idea that anyone interpreted this gesture as 3 goals to go, a massacre tonight. He thought the fans were saying, I love you. 6, 6, 6. I love you all too. Mwah. He immediately made the gesture out the window and explained its meaning to his teammates. After the match against Manchester City, Xia Qi became close friends with many teammates, including Chamberlain, Walcott, and Cazorla. And this gesture had such a positive meaning. A Chinese-style I love you. So, everyone in the car, even Wenger and Pat Rice, flashed a 6+1 sign. Immediately, deafening cheers erupted outside the windows, audible for miles around. How superficial I was. It wasn't that His Highness was young and impetuous. The tactical mastermind had a plan for tonight. Hey, is this the football betting center? I want to bet on Arsenal giving a 3-goal handicap. Marilyn, bet me on Arsenal winning by over 2.5 goals. They'll score 5 goals tonight. Chelsea 4-5-1 lineup, forward. 9 Torres, front, midfielders. 17 Hazard, center. 7 Ramirez, center. 10 Mata, center. 12 Michael, center. 8 Lampard, center. Defenders. 4 David Luiz, back. 2 Ivanovic, back. 26 Terry, back. 3 Ashley Cole, back. Goalkeeper. 1 Petr Cech, goalkeeper. Chapter 34. Let the misunderstandings come even more fiercely. At the pre-match press conference, no one expected that Di Matteo, who has little presence in the Premier League, would erupt in anger. It's understandable why he was angry. He was the one who first invented the striker-defender role, yet it only made him a great left-back, while he remained a novice before and after the match. Meanwhile, Wenger, who also used a striker-defender role, achieved fame and fortune after a single game, rising from professor to master. Isn't that infuriating? Tonight, before the match even started, they've already conceded 3 goals. Who are they looking down on? You lack the most basic respect for the European champions, the most basic respect for the Premier League leaders. After 5 rounds of the Premier League, Chelsea has 4 wins and 1 draw, accumulating 13 points, while Arsenal has 3 wins and 2 draws, accumulating 11 points. Manchester United has 12 points. Both teams are among the only 2 unbeaten teams in the Premier League so far, and should theoretically respect each other. But then the news of a 3-goal concession broke, and even a clay idol would be angry. Di Matteo stormed out. The reporters at the scene, far from repenting, were like sharks smelling blood, eagerly awaiting Wenger's entrance. Poor Wenger, his mere presence was enough to send him into panic. He pulled out his BlackBerry smartphone, searched online, and only then did he feel relieved. At least Xia Qi hadn't lied. This gesture in China means I love you, that's what Xia Qi and I meant, but you all misunderstood. The reporters believed this explanation, but they still pressed him, asking skillfully. Professor, in your announced starting lineup, we noticed Xia Qi in a new position. What are your expectations for this new lineup? Wenger, of course, replied, I hope tonight will be our best game. In the reporter's hands, this became pre-match tactical change, 3 goals to cover, aiming for the best, crushing the opponent. Well, the feud between the two clubs is now huge. Thankfully, Mourinho left, otherwise Wenger would have been torn to shreds. So, Di Matteo stormed back to the locker room, furious, and confronted his players. The players were all indignant, transforming into Ultramen, shouting that they would fight the monster. "We must win this game, not just for 6 points, but for our identity. Michael, I need you to mark that Chinese kid tightly the entire game." Michael Obi, a tragic figure, perfectly illustrates, choice is more important than effort. In the 2005 FIFA U20 World Cup, Michael Obi debuted as an attacking midfielder, hailed as one of the 3 attacking midfielders for the next decade, alongside Messi and Chen Tao. At 19, he transferred to the Premier League, wanting to earn more money. Instead of choosing Manchester United, who were short of attacking midfielders at the time, he listened to his agent and went to Chelsea. At that time, Chelsea already had the promising Lampard and Ballack, one of the top 3 active players in the world. In attacking midfield, there was no place for him. Mourinho had no choice but to convert him to defensive midfielder, holding midfielder. It can't be said that the transformation was a failure, but now the world only knows Essien and Makalo, while he has become a detector of fake fans. In the away team's locker room, Di Matteo continued to explain his tactics. "Arsenal's transitions between attack and defense are very fast, just like ours." In the home team's locker room, Wenger explained the misunderstanding about the gestures, reminding the players to pay attention to the opponent's anger and fighting spirit. Tonight was already a tough game, and now it would be even more difficult. The derby atmosphere was already tense, and after the 3 points guarantee incident, there was an added layer of animosity between the players. The two teams didn't exchange words in the players' tunnel, and the tense atmosphere infected everyone. Even the ballboy's palms were sweating nervously. Xia Qi gently wiped them clean and comforted him. "Don't be nervous." I'm not nervous. You'll score, right?" "Of course." An angry hum came from beside him. Xia Qi ignored it. "Some misunderstandings don't need explaining, let the misunderstandings come even more fiercely. Ladies and gentlemen, now I will introduce the starting lineups of both sides. Chelsea is using a 4-5-1 formation. Arsenal is using a 4-3-3 formation. Although this is a familiar formation, Xia Qi is playing as an attacking midfielder. Wenger changes tactics when facing strong teams. Will this change be as effective as the previous two? We'll wait and see. Line up, shake hands, toss the coin. Arsenal gets the kickoff. Ding dong. Please select training or match mode. Match. Please select your position, A forward, B midfielder. B. Please select your midfield type, A attacking midfielder, B. A. Detected that your team is currently in a difficult situation, matching your knife's deceptive path. Attribute, knife's deceptive path, comes from the Samba Army's Watsaw, with unpredictable movement, super strong attacks, and strong organization, allowing you to solve all problems alone in the midfield and attacking third. Xia Qi thought, so he's an unpopular attacking midfielder. Note, please select autonomous mode or one-click AFK mode. Friendly reminder, during AFK, the system will automatically complete various indicator actions for the host. One-click AFK. Easy AFK, one-click automatic completion, freeing your feet, bringing the host a relaxed and enjoyable field experience. The match experience officially begins. Xia Qi's entire demeanor then shifted to that of a CEO, a silent power filling his entire body, muscles tense, thoughts clear, fighting spirit high. As soon as Xia Qi received the ball, Michael rushed up. Di Matteo had assigned him to mark Xia Qi throughout the field. The two were playing as defensive midfielders against attacking midfielders, a matchup, but it happened a little too early. Upon approaching, Michael didn't immediately press, but instead sized him up. Thinking, just as the data said, expressionless. If it weren't for the intelligence in his eyes, he'd really think he was a robot. I heard this kid has personality issues. If it's just social anxiety, it's not a big problem. Messi was socially anxious back then too. Thinking of Messi, Michael felt a pang of heartache, a pang of self-pity. His former friend, whom he hadn't contacted for years, had drifted apart not because of Messi, but because of himself. Xia Qi, unaware of Michael's emotional outburst at the start, seized the opportunity when Michael was distracted, executing a bicycle kick and speeding away. Arsenal fans erupted in cheers upon seeing him easily defeat an opponent. Some, greedy for more, shouted, "A dragon! A dragon! Beat them! Beat them!" All the Chelsea players instantly underwent a dramatic change. Their eyes turning vicious, their faces as cold as death. Lampard and Terry charged in, both sliding in with sliding tackles. Author's note: I can't place a bet, sorry. Note: Rivaldo is a severely underrated attacking midfielder. Among players of that era, Rivaldo and Zidane were considered the Messi and Ronaldo of the attacking midfield position, neck and neck. However, Zidane became the Zidane ancestor, while Rivaldo was forgotten. When we talk about attacking midfielders, we often think of Maradona, Zidane, Kaká, Ronaldinho, De Bruyne, even Nedved and Varane are mentioned, but therefore, the text uses a reference to Stephanie Sun, an obscure singer. It's illogical that the protagonist, a professional player, wouldn't know Rivaldo. Hopefully, everyone enjoys it and doesn't take it too seriously. My point is, Rivaldo equals Stephanie Sun equals international superstar. Also, don't mistake the Rivaldo in the game for the real-life version. The Rivaldo in the game has almost no playmaking ability, which is incorrect. Rivaldo's weak playmaking is relative to Zidane. Just like Bruno Fernandes' playmaking is not as good as De Bruyne's, but even at his worst, Bruno Fernandes is still one of the top 10 attacking midfielders currently playing Arsenal. 4-3-3 goalkeeper, man-owned defenders, Santos, Koscielny, Mertesacker, Jenkinson, midfielders, Cazorla, Arteta, Xia Qi, forwards, Chamberlain, Giroud, Walcott, Chelsea 4-5-1, goalkeeper, Sek, defenders, David Luiz, Ivanovic, Terry, Ashley Cole, midfielders, Lampard, Michael, Mata, Ramirez, Hazard, forward, Torres. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, When Fouls Are a Tactic, How to Beat Them. Lampard and Terry's sliding tackles were less a defensive maneuver and more a warning. At this point, most people would pass the ball out, a temporary solution, even if they had to receive it back a second later. It's a matter of courtesy. Once it's passed, it's done. A few, like Neymar, would simply shout, "Roll over, Neymar." The AI-controlled Xia Qi is like Neymar. It has no emotions. It doesn't understand the language of the pitch. Seeing the two sliding tackles, one after the other, not only did nothing to help Chelsea's defense, but it actually had a negative effect. Ding, match point detected on the field, deceptive path, attribute activated. Immediately, the ball was feinted, a Marseille's turn, dodging Lampard's tackle, then gently pushed forward, allowing Terry to slide past before the ball rounding in front of his head. The damage wasn't great, but the insult was immense. Lampard and Terry's faces were beyond repair, darker than black men's faces. Chelsea's defense, in an instant, sounded a red alert. Ashley Cole panicked. He couldn't let Xia Qi break through to the end, so he rushed out of the penalty area and pounced on Xia Qi. The AI controlled Xia Qi's body, precisely sending the ball through his legs, and then overtook him again. The fourth one. Too brutal. The last one this brutal was Ronaldo, right? A one-man show per game. More brutal than Ronaldo, Kaká, and Messi. If you have to compare, only the ancient god Maradona can. There are no wrong nicknames, only wrong names. The brutal emperor, the brutality continues. Ashley Cole chased desperately behind Xia Qi, but it was obviously too late. Xia Qi caught up with the ball, and David Luiz moved with small, quick steps. He no longer cared whether Xia Qi could shoot or not, he had to make sure he wasn't eaten. To be eaten at the start of the game is even more embarrassing than conceding a goal. Eat him alive. The fifth one, 5-5-5. On the field, this kind of solo run is easy to get carried away with. The fans had forgotten the purpose of overcoming all obstacles, they just wanted Xia Qi to get past David Luiz's afro. Just looking at his hair reminded them of cotton candy. If not him, who would they eat? The Arsenal fans' piercing 5s pounded at David Luiz's heart. He glanced at Xia Qi's ankle several times, but a red card and penalty right at the start of the game, he couldn't bring himself to do it. AI doesn't act on emotion. What Arsenal fans wanted most, and what David Luiz feared most, didn't happen. Xia Qi lifted his foot, using the inside of his foot between the laces and the ball, heavily rubbing it under the ball, applying upward force along the edge. The ball flew out, spinning violently, heading towards the outside of the goal. The ball was flying outwards. Xe's leap was definitely too short. But just as he missed, the ball arced in a strange arc, returning like a boomerang, flying into the far corner and hitting the net. A chip shot. A chip shot, a chip shot soul, a chip shot is not human. Wow. A beautiful chip shot. It's the chip shot that disappeared from the game after the retirement of the Zebra Prince Del Piero. This may not be the most troublesome shot for goalkeepers, but it is definitely in the top 5 of the vicious shooting techniques. Only 78 seconds into the game, Arsenal took the lead. Will tonight's game be another feast? No one at Chelsea blamed David Luiz and Xia. They just looked at Xia Qi with fierce eyes. Killing intent level 100. A chip shot, exquisite. Arsenal fans forgot Xia Qi's displeasure at not getting past a fifth man and started clapping and cheering. Soon, someone shouted, 2 more. At first, there were only a few people, but in the end, the whole stadium was shouting, 2 more. 2 more. Chelsea, killing intent level 124. The match continued, Chelsea kicked off, and things started off quite well. But when Cazorla intercepted their possession, the atmosphere changed. Xia Qi gets the ball, oh dear. It's Lampard again. This is the 3rd time, isn't it? Can this game even continue? In just over 10 minutes, Xia Qi has been fouled 6 times. If he doesn't retaliate, I'll eat this microphone. On the pitch, Lampard watched with mixed feelings as Xia Qi got up from the ground. This boy's style was completely different from the other annoying Neymar. Even when tackled, chopped, or elbowed by Lampard and his teammates, he never feigned pain on the ground, nor did he complain to the referee. He simply stood up expressionlessly, without even brushing off the grass from his backside, calmly waiting for the restart. If it weren't for the anger in his eyes, Lampard would have thought he hadn't committed a foul. Lampard sighed inwardly. No wonder Steven Gerrard liked him so much, saying he was born to be a Liverpool man. Why must he belong to Liverpool? He actually fits iron-blooded blues perfectly. On the sidelines, Wenger yelled at the 4th referee, 3 times. 3 times. If you can't give a red card, at least give a yellow card. Nothing, just because he's a genie? Quiet. Sir. The referee has his reasons. Besides, Xia Qi didn't object. Wenger didn't know how to explain Xia Qi's performance, all his words condensed into a French expression. On the pitch, seeing Xia Qi's toughness, some Chelsea players were convinced, some were not. Ramirez saw Xia Qi looking at him, he slightly raised his head, chin raised, revealing a provocative come-on expression. He and Xia Qi were both playing as attacking midfielders tonight, but their performances were like fireflies and the bright moon. Jealousy had taken hold of him. As a South American star, he had played his way from the slums to Europe, and his dirty tactics on the pitch were innate. His tackles were dark, dirty, and stealthy. He didn't think Xia Qi was being stubborn by not appealing, rather, he thought it was because Xia Qi couldn't prove his innocence. Xia Qi was fouled 6 times, and Chelsea didn't get a single yellow card. Whose home ground is this tonight? Wenger is too gentlemanly, he should learn from Mourinho and Ferguson. Logically speaking, Chelsea's constant fouls in midfield disrupted Arsenal's attacking organization, fragmenting the game. This hurt Arsenal, who rely more on tactical systems, more. While this tactic is dirty and unappealing, it's undeniable that it's a method worth learning. If Arsenal can't come up with a better way, I think more mid to lower tier teams will adopt this method. Zhang Lu's comments on the Tencent livestream were largely similar to those of Sky Sports commentator Martin Tyler. This renowned British football commentator posed a soul-searching question in the livestream: when fouling is a tactic, how do you overcome it? On the pitch, Xia Qi was searching for the answer. Chapter 36 to the Warcraft. A lone plume of smoke rises straight from the desert, the precise shot cannot be delayed. On the pitch, Xia Qi was searching for an answer. He saw AI controlling his body to run towards Lampard. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration struck him: if you can't solve the problem, solve the person who asked it, right, Brother Tong? The AI, of course, wouldn't answer. But the Arsenal fans responded with applause. Get up from where you fall. That's a quality. A quality of fearlessness in the face of battle. The spirit of Arsenal. Xia Qi's actions satisfied the fans, who applauded generously. If he had dodged like Chamberlain after being fouled against Southampton, it would have been a loss of popularity. Xia Qi's attitude made the pitch temperature 37 degrees Celsius. This prince is cold, but very Arsenal. Xia Qi was tackled by Lampard, and Arsenal got a free kick in their own half. Arteta took the kick, and before doing so, he looked up and saw Xia Qi charging towards Lampard. Xia Qi's fearlessness in the face of battle was a given, and the ball flew towards him. Xia Qi, with his back to the goal, leaned firmly against Lampard behind him. The ball still had some time to fall, and Xia Qi's mind was racing. He was considering how he would handle the ball if he were in Lampard's shoes. Would he lean against Lampard and head the ball, or stop it with his foot and then wait for an opportunity? He felt the AI's approach was roughly correct, there shouldn't be a better choice. Suddenly, he felt the AI manipulating his body, pressing all his weight onto Lampard. Was it trying to lock down Lampard? Should he extend his leg to stop the ball? Xia Qi only guessed the beginning correctly, not the end. He saw him tense his right instep, and just as the ball was about to hit the ground, with his toe, he flicked it upwards. Xia Qi's mind went blank. Suddenly, everything became clear. The AI didn't want to waste a single second, it wanted to control the ball and launch an attack in one fluid motion, so, with a gentle flick of its toe at the bottom of the ball flew over Xia Qi's head and landed behind Lampard. Meanwhile, Xia Qi turned and dribbled past his opponent. A backheel flick followed by a turn. It was reminiscent of Bergkamp's legendary turn of the century. A turn of the century. Xia Qi pays tribute to Bergkamp with a move similar to a turn of the century. At the Emirates Stadium, a gasp of surprise followed immediately by applause. Jack, watching the game, said to his friend, "Watching Xia Qi play is exhausting, my hands are swollen from clapping." His friend replied, "We got lucky with Van Persie, but Xia Qi came along." Jack asked, "Who's Van Persie?" The two exchanged a glance and then burst into laughter. Lampard lost his defensive position, and by the time he realized what had happened, he could only see Xia Qi's back. Terry charged towards the ball's trajectory, as did Xia Qi. Neither slowed down, their faces etched with determination, neither giving an inch. A collision seemed inevitable. The timid female fans instinctively covered their eyes. In their minds, Terry, with his superior physical strength, would undoubtedly win this clash. Xia Qi accelerated. Terry was even less likely to slow down. In physical confrontations, he wasn't afraid even his former teammate Didier Drogba, so why would he be afraid of Xia Qi? As the ball approached the ground again, Xia Qi flicked it with his toe, sending it flying over Terry's head. It turned out Xia Qi's acceleration wasn't for a collision. Terry felt he'd been taught a lesson in football intelligence and could only hope to gain an advantage in the crash. The crash was inevitable. Neither of them seemed to want to avoid it. Boom! A dull thud of flesh colliding rang out. Xia Qi wasn't panicked as usual, having been given extra time. He was in no way inferior to Balotelli, that muscle monster. The two were evenly matched. Xia Qi staggered slightly but immediately chased after the ball. Terry turned. Against Xia Qi's absolute speed, anyone's turn was like an aircraft carrier making a U-turn. Terry was no exception. By the time he turned and chased, he was already several body lengths behind. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. By the time Xia Qi caught up with the ball and cut into the penalty area, the Emirates Stadium erupted in a frenzied roar of support, a full beat late. Only David Luiz remained as a defender in the penalty area. He felt a bittersweet mix of pride. It was him again, defending the team's last vestige of dignity from being completely outmaneuvered. David Luiz intently observed Xia Qi's shoulders and hips, assessing his center of gravity. The Arsenal fans in the stadium were also fantasizing about various humiliating defeats, while simultaneously warning Xia Qi that Terry was chasing from behind. However, Xia Qi shielded the ball between his feet, used a step over, and charged straight at him. A reckless charge. David Luiz dared not shift his weight properly, trying to avoid being outmaneuvered by Xia Qi. But the technically gifted Xia Qi transformed into brute force, charging in like a tank. One had a solid center of gravity, the other an unsteady one. The outcome was obvious. But David Luiz was a seasoned defender, he wouldn't let Xia Qi have it easy. As he stumbled, he grabbed Xia Qi's arm and simultaneously turned, attempting to use his body weight to steady him. But Xia Qi didn't stop. He dragged David Luiz along as he chased after the ball. He glanced up at Sek, then lifted his leg. This scene would be familiar to anyone with over 8 years of football experience. In the 2005 Community Shield, Chelsea striker Drogba dragged Arsenal's top centre-back Senderos, forcing a shot and turning the 20-year-old rising star into a depressed one. Now, Xia Qi was retaliating in kind. The Emirates Stadium fell completely silent, everyone held their breath, waiting for Xia Qi to shoot. This was no longer a simple goal, it was an arrow of revenge. Sek saw Xia Qi raise his foot and immediately lunged forward. It wasn't that he lunged too early, but a bull's dribble after a strike usually results in a bull's shot, and such shots are typically very fast, requiring a quick lunge. However, Xia Qi used the outside of his foot to chip the ball. The ball flew past Sek and into the net. Goal. A lone plume of smoke rises straight from the desert, a finesse shot that can't be delayed. After paying homage to the Ice Prince Bergkamp, Xia Qi once again paid tribute to his predecessor with a memorable moment, this time to the beast Drogba. Zanjun said Xia Qi was paying tribute to his predecessor, but in the eyes of Chelsea and Arsenal, it was revenge. An eye for an eye revenge. Quite inspiring. Not to mention Arsenal fans, even the usually refined Wenger took off his suit, loosened his tie, and jumped for joy like a child on the sidelines 2-0. Some older fans, with tears in their eyes, pointed their index fingers to the sky, shouting, "That blonde boy who was ruined by Drogba, can you see? Your successor has avenged you." Arsenal players rushed towards Xia Qi, tackled this iceberg, and then piled on top of him one after another. Xia Qi, at the bottom, still had no expression, but his eyes were smiling. David Luiz watched the Arsenal players celebrating with a complicated expression. He'd already risked a red card, putting all his weight on the ball, but still couldn't stop Xia Qi's shot. He'd rather have been eaten. He turned to Terry, "Let's double-team him. It's not shameful." Terry nodded. Xia Qi was no longer junior. "Double-team him. Double-team or drop back. Captain, aren't we going to tackle him? Focus on our own game. If we encounter him, double-team him. Michael, come back here. Coach, do you think that old man understands tactics? If we don't make changes, we'll lose face here." Chapter 37. The next goal must be mine. The iron-blooded Blues truly lived up to their name. This Chelsea team, fresh off winning the Champions League in May and leading the Premier League, played with incredible tenacity. Trailing by 2 goals, they didn't collapse, instead, their ferocity ignited. When they stopped their disruptive play, they displayed championship brilliance. In the 21st minute, Torres' long run successfully drew Arsenal's defensive attention, allowing Hazard to capitalize on the chaos, cutting into the penalty area and firing a shot that grazed the post and went out of play. Immediately after, Hazard again, using his massive hips to weave in and out of the box before unleashing a powerful backheel shot, fortunately deflecting off Santos. Having thwarted Chelsea's initial onslaught, Arsenal began their counter-attack. In the 27th minute, Arsenal won a free kick about 25 meters from goal. Lacking a free kick specialist, Arteta took the shot, sending the ball straight into Sek's arms. The rest of the match was a high-paced and intense affair, with neither side giving an inch. The back-and-forth attacks fueled the growing excitement of both sets of fans, whose cheers were infectious, even reaching those watching the live broadcast on LED screens outside the stadium. For a time, the cheers from outside the stadium actually drowned out those inside. It was the roar of Chelsea fans, louder outside than inside. This was not only due to the larger number of fans outside the stadium, but also because they noticed that after the pace of the game increased, Arsenal's midfield became somewhat sloppy in its ball handling, resulting in less threatening passes. They believed that Chelsea would eventually catch up. Their insight was indeed sharp, demonstrating expert judgment. No wonder they were die-hard fans. In the 32nd minute, Lampard, under tight marking from Cazorla, still managed to deliver a through ball. It was a pass to Hazard, but Hazard caught a glimpse of Torres out of the corner of his eye, and his quick thinking paid off. He feigned a shot, and the Arsenal defender moved, but his raised leg didn't come down, and the ball slipped through. The opening was created. Torres burst through the crowd, unstoppable by any defender. Mertesacker quickly raised his hand to signal offside, but neither the linesman nor the referee reacted. Chelsea fans became the masters of the Emirates Stadium. Go Torres! T9, charge! Torres was the fastest in the penalty area. Manon's expression remained calm, but his mind was in turmoil. Before Torres could even lift his foot, He spread his arms and lunged to the side. Torres' reaction was lightning fast, truly world-class. He perfectly timed a cross, dribbling past Manon. The ball nestled into the empty net 2-1. Chelsea pulled one back in the first half, making the game unpredictable. Manon's anticipation failed. After his save, Torres maintained his balance, timely passing across to change direction and tap into the empty net. Arsenal currently has two problems, the goalkeeper and the midfield playmaker. With Szczesny and Wilshere injured, Arsenal needs better players in these two positions if they don't want to fall out of the title race. After scoring, Torres sprinted towards the corner flag, his teammates closely following behind. The game restarted 3 minutes later. Trailing by 1 goal, Chelsea continued their attack, pressing high after Arsenal's kickoff and quickly intercepting the ball. Cazorla, left with no other option, fouled Ramirez. Chelsea were awarded a free kick 30 meters from the left side of the pitch. Lampard took the free kick, the ball going over the wall and hitting the crossbar, missing the best chance to equalize in the first half. Both sides then played 2 more rounds, neither creating a chance. The score went 2-1 at halftime. In the away team's locker room, Di Matteo praised the players' efforts and then gave them a pep talk. In the home team's locker room, Wenger tried to keep his tone light. This team was still too young, and encouragement was better than criticism. We have a 1-goal advantage. In the second half, we'll play counter-attacking football. Xia, we hope to see more of your teamwork. The second half began, and neither side made any substitutions. Chelsea continued to press, but Arsenal focused on defense, and Xia Qi's position had also dropped back slightly. After the kickoff, Chelsea continued their relentless attack. For 5 minutes, Arsenal were pinned down and couldn't even cross the halfway line. During this time, Arsenal fans were tense and anxious, while Wenger and Pat Rice looked relaxed, talking amongst themselves on the bench. Afterward, Pat Rice even laughed heartily. The two had seen Xia Qi's improvement and the changes in the midfield. When defending, Xia Qi would drop back to help Arteta receive the ball, allowing Arteta to focus on forming 2 defensive barriers on the left and right with Cazorla, greatly improving the safety of the penalty area. During counter-attacks, Xia Qi would use himself as a focal point to draw defenders into double teams, creating opportunities for Giroud on the flanks and in the center. This is the opposite of Arsenal's traditional tactic of attacking down the wings and scoring through the middle. One is for everyone, the other is everyone for me. In reality, both ultimately aim for the same goal. Wenger and Pat Rice saw the convergence, hence their relaxed expressions. Wenger jokingly scolded Xia Qi, relying on your ability to exploit opponents, you forced Chelsea to double-team you, using your runs to draw away Chelsea's defense. Pat Rice responded with a remark from Wenger, he's already exploited several opponents today, isn't he full yet? That's hilarious. Xia Qi, the child-eating guy. So ruthless. On the pitch, Xia Qi suddenly played a through ball during a breakthrough, Giroud leaned on Terry and unleashed a shot that flew towards the stands. 3 points later, Xia Qi carried Lampard into the penalty area, played a 1-2 with Giroud in a tight space, and before Terry and David Luiz could double-team him, he flicked the ball with his heel, and Walcott followed up with a shot that was tipped over the bar by Sek. As time went on, the fans finally saw Arsenal's change. Xia Qi used breakthroughs to track double teams, then used his runs to stretch Chelsea's defense, and finally passed a ball to the gaps in the defense. The forwards who got the ball were a threat. Walcott, Chamberlain, and Giroud saw hope for their first goals, and their runs became more aggressive. The more aggressive they were, the more passes Xia Qi provided, and the more support they received, the more threatening they became. Under Xia Qi's orchestration, Arsenal played better and better. Xia, making everyone better. This organizational style is quite unique. It's a bit like the style of the Brazilian trowel. In the stands, the tense atmosphere dissipated, and smiles returned to the faces of Arsenal fans. Arsenal's change in tactics was causing Chelsea considerable distress. If they didn't double-team Xia Qi, he would outmaneuver them, but double-teaming him, at this rate, would only lead to their demise. Chelsea players' mentality began to sour, and the momentum on the field subtly shifted in Arsenal's favor. In the 68th minute, Arteta intercepted the ball, and Arsenal launched a counter-attack. Xia Qi dribbled forward, and Ramirez went to meet him alone. His thinking was simple: if he could single-handedly defend Xia Qi, he would be a hero. But being a hero isn't so easy. Xia Qi didn't even glance at him, simply flicking the ball away and accelerating. He didn't even bother with feints, using his speed and body to brute force his way past him. Outmaneuvering. Another dish added to Xia Qi's repertoire. Chelsea fans, initially pleased that Ramirez had volunteered, thought he had found a defensive method and cheered him on. But he couldn't withstand a single blow and was eliminated. The cheers turned into boos. Ramirez failed to become a hero and was instead criticized by the fans, more trouble than he's worth. Chelsea's defense was in crisis. Lampard and Michael charged towards the goalkeeper, and Arsenal's attacking trident immediately went their separate ways. The next goal must be mine. Chapter 38. Life is unpredictable, large intestine wrapped in small intestine. After Ramirez rolled to his side, he realized that Captain Terry was right, double teaming wasn't shameful. Unfortunately, it was too late. Xia Qi dribbled past his opponent and surged forward at full speed. Lampard and Michael moved to double team him. Before they could get close, Xia Qi passed a ball to Arteta. Arteta then passed it back to Xia Qi, completing a textbook 2-on-2 combination. Xia Qi reached the edge of the penalty area in just 3 seconds, feigning a shot in front of Terry, but instead, he cut inside with lightning speed, like a dragon cutting into the box. However, David Luiz was prepared, getting there first to cover and block Xia Qi. This defensive maneuver was crucial, plugging the breach just as it appeared, preventing a complete collapse. Xia Qi didn't try to outmaneuver him, determined to get past him. Although the Arsenal fans were chanting for him to break through Chelsea, the AI-controlled Xia Qi remained remarkably calm and composed. Leaning slightly to the right, he chipped the ball with the instep of his foot, sending it flying past David Luiz's left foot, around Ashley Cole, and landing in front of Giroud. Only goalkeeper Sek stood between Giroud and the goal. This was a fatal pass. Giroud took a deep breath, met the ball with a powerful, controlled shot, the ball carrying all his strength as it hurtled towards the goal. This was a fatal blow. Boom. A deafening roar. In a flash, Ashley Cole, disregarding his own safety, threw himself forward with all his might, appearing just in time to shield Giroud from the ball. This man, though a scumbag with a beautiful wife, was a true man on the pitch. The ball rebounded towards the center, and Xia Qi, quick as lightning, chipped it in. The ball returned to its original position. Chelsea fans, experiencing a roller coaster of emotions, from surprise to despair, closed their eyes. Boom. Another deafening roar. The ball struck the crossbar. Damn. AI isn't invincible after all. No wonder Lee Settle could beat AlphaGo. The ball bounced towards the right side of the penalty area, and a red and white lightning bolt once again burst out from the crowd, unleashing another powerful shot. It was Theo Walcott. Arsenal fans cheered prematurely. 2 shots, 2 misses, had them frustrated, and this time they firmly believed third time's the charm. However, their cheers didn't ask Sek's permission beforehand. Sek leaped up, diving forward. He punched the ball with both hands. The ball, as if fleeing for its life, rushed out of the penalty area. Lampard followed the ball out of the penalty area, with Xia Qi close behind. Seeing Xia Qi about to overtake out of the corner of his eye, Lampard suddenly took a big step forward and braked. At high speed, even AI can't escape the laws of physics. Xia Qi's face collided with Lampard's back. A seasoned veteran, a seasoned player, a defense full of experience and wisdom. Human brains against AI aren't always at a disadvantage. On the pitch, Ramirez, without stopping the ball, chipped it to Hazard, who wasn't involved in defense. Chelsea launched a counter-attack amidst the cheers of their fans. Arsenal retreated like a recoiled tide. Hazard broke through on the left wing, a slight miscalculation, faking out Jenkinson, cutting inside into the penalty area, gently flicking the ball forward, then taking a run-up, raising his right foot, a shot. Arsenal's 2 centre-backs reacted with lightning speed, the Blues, steely. We Gunners aren't cowards either. Mertesacker shielded his son with his hands, Koscielny protected his face, both sacrificing themselves to block the shot. However, their steely resolve ultimately failed. It was a feint. Hazard's right foot was raised high and then gently lowered, before landing, flicking it backward and then forward, his toe flicking the ball. A chip over the defender. After getting past his opponent, Hazard didn't rush towards the ball, but instead charged towards Torres, passing behind him, and then towards the goal. A cross-cutting run. The ball, after being chipped over, before it even hit the ground, was deflected by Torres with a shuttlecock kicking motion, creating a small, delicate arc that landed gently in front of Hazard. In the narrow penalty area, Two world-class strikers were manipulating Arsenal's defenders like puppets. They toyed with their opponents from the left to the right of the box. Wenger's face instantly turned into a grimace. Arsenal fans erupted in angry, piercing boos. At the far corner of the goal, Hazard once again prepared to shoot. Santos, facing him, glanced at the other half of the double team, Torres, and cursed inwardly, a Brazilian curse similar to MMP. He charged towards Hazard without hesitation, but his peripheral vision kept glancing at Torres. He desperately wanted Hazard to pass the ball. Life is unpredictable. Santos didn't want to be a hero, but the ball came straight for him. There was no turning back. A chill ran through him, and he closed his eyes in terror. Thank goodness. Hazard's footwork was accurate. No one was jealous of his handsome face that suggested he could live off a woman. A cool breeze swept by, and the gasps of the fans reached his ears. Santos breathed a sigh of relief. In front of the goal, Manon quickly leaped into the air, diving to his left, stretching his body to its limit. He felt the ball at his fingertips, but it wasn't enough. He couldn't generate enough power. Then, boom. The sound of the ball kissing the goalpost was simply heavenly. But the next second, his smile froze. He felt a blow to his back. Oh no. That was Manon's first thought. The gasps of his own fans and the cheers of the opposing fans confirmed his suspicions. The ball, touched by his fingertips, didn't change its momentum but deflected slightly, hitting the inside of the goalpost, bouncing off his back, and finally bouncing into the net. Goal, 2-2. Life is unpredictable, like a large intestine wrapped around a small intestine. Arsenal missed 3 shots, and Chelsea seized the opportunity. Hazard and Torres made a miracle in the middle, equalizing the score. Football is like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're gonna get. 1 second, Arsenal found their rhythm, and under Xia Qi's guidance, the midfield and attack gradually turned the tide, about to extend their lead, but Chelsea equalized first. Very dramatic. On the field, those who squander opportunities will suffer the consequences is truly a wise saying. Arsenal's goal conceded started with 3 missed shots. Now both sides are back to square one. I think Arsenal shouldn't deny their tactics because of conceding a goal. Actually, the tactics worked, they just lacked a little luck. After seeing the ball go into the net, Hazard raised his arms and turned to charge towards Torres, who also charged towards him. The two collided passionately in mid-air, igniting the passion of everyone at Chelsea. In the London derby, there are no cowards. This is a victory for Hazard, a victory for Ashley Cole, and a victory for the great Chelsea. After the referee's whistle, both team doctors rushed onto the field. Ashley Cole and Xia Qi both needed treatment. Ashley Cole was kicked, and although he got up, he remained in the penalty area and didn't participate in the counter-attack. Xia Qi's injury was minor, he bumped his nose into Lampard's back and bled. He needed to have the bleeding stopped and change his jersey before returning to the field. Request for continued reading, recommendation votes, and monthly tickets. Chapter 39 Unique Charm. This match perfectly exemplified the fierce rivalry of the derby. Xia Qi retaliated by mimicking Drogba's shot while dragging a defender. Hazard retaliated by mimicking Xia Qi's dribbling and skillfully maneuvering past defenders. Both sets of fans were swept up in the excitement. Arsenal fans shouted insults at Hazard, while Chelsea fans retaliated with shots at Xia Qi. Inside the stadium, things were relatively calm. Without any aids, the verbal sparring didn't escalate much, it was just a shouting contest. However, outside the stadium, Chelsea fans, fueled by alcohol, started burning Xia Qi's portraits. Arsenal fans retaliated, burning portraits of Terry and Lampard. Then the situation spiraled out of control. Verbal altercation, portrait burning, throwing objects fight. Such incidents happen several times a year, and experienced North London police, shields and batons in hand, began dispersing and arresting the troublemakers. Inside the stadium, unaware of the chaos outside, they were drawn in by the tense atmosphere of the football match. On the pitch, Chelsea, having equalized, were unstoppable, relentlessly beating Arsenal. Arsenal's attacking trident all returned to defend. Suddenly, a deafening roar erupted from the stadium. Xia Qi and Ashley Cole stood on the sidelines, waiting to enter the game. Especially Ashley Cole, no one had expected him to play. This is the derby, nobody wants to miss it, even with a minor injury, they'll play. The derby is incredibly important to them. There's a saying, better to lose the championship than lose the derby. After entering the field, Xia Qi received the ball and passed it to Lampard. The stadium was stunned for a moment, then immediately erupted in applause. Just now, Chelsea had kicked the ball out of bounds to allow their hero Ashley Cole to enter the game sooner. Chamberlain, young and impetuous, hadn't thrown the ball to the opponent, but instead to Xia Qi. Under AI control, Xia Qi was emotionless, following the rules perfectly. The ball was returned to Lampard. As for whether Chamberlain was angry after being humiliated, he was utterly emotionless. Chelsea fan A, although I hate Arsenal's hypocrisy, this Xia Qi is actually quite likable. He's tough and classy, a real man. Chelsea fan B, shit, and he's cheap too, only 5 million. Look at us, what did we buy? A bunch of mediocre players. It's infuriating to compare. With his level, I reckon he'll be called up to the national team soon. Well, I'll cheer for him then. Getting a Xia Qi national team jersey would be a good idea. The game continued. Xia Qi's entry couldn't change Chelsea's momentum. Arsenal remained on the defensive. But with Xia Qi dropping back, Arteta could focus on playing as a double pivot with Cazorla. The two combined to intercept and neutralize attacks in front of the penalty area, giving Chelsea 90% of their chances. Arsenal gradually weathered the most difficult period of the evening. Chelsea's attack stalled, their momentum began to wane, and Arsenal launched a few counter-attacks. Xia Qi found an opportunity and played a through ball. Giroud, receiving the ball, attempted a volley from the edge of the penalty area. However, he missed the ball head-on, and it rolled softly forward, only to be stopped by David Luiz with his foot. The damage was minimal, but the humiliation was immense. Chelsea fans laughed until their stomachs hurt. Arsenal, spurred on by their defeat, 2 minutes later. Mertesacker intercepted the ball from Hazard in the penalty area and played a through ball directly to Xia Qi. Ramirez and Lampard immediately closed in. One focused on the ball at Xia Qi's feet, while the other dropped back to defend, constantly guarding against a breakthrough. Xia Qi dribbled towards the two, seemingly intending to outmaneuver them. Ramirez grinned maliciously, thinking, damn it, and accelerated forward. At high speed, Xia Qi suddenly braked. Just when everyone thought he would pass the ball outwards to overtake on the outside, he changed direction and ran laterally. Damn it! Ramirez knew he had missed, and could only turn to look at Lampard behind him. Lampard had assumed Xia Qi would definitely get past him, whether by cutting inside or outside. But Xia Qi simply ran. This defied all normal human logic. Caught off guard, Lampard immediately twisted his waist and lunged at Xia Qi with a sliding tackle. However, he underestimated Xia Qi's speed, and his tackle landed empty-handed. Michael, in front of Xia Qi, was terrified, not wanting to be outmaneuvered again, and quickly called for backup. Ashley Cole once again showed his manly side on the pitch, rushing over to cover Michael. Seeing his objective achieved, Xia Qi moved the ball to Walcott's feet. Without Ashley Cole on his right, Arsenal's right side, Walcott easily cut inside. Xia Qi and Giroud surged forward in the middle, one behind the other. Inside the penalty area, David Luiz and Terry could only split up, one defending Walcott while the other defended Giroud, who was already at the penalty spot. As for Xia Qi, hopefully his teammates won't make any more mistakes. Walcott tried to get past Terry, but the experienced Terry didn't give him the chance. The young Walcott's two feints failed to fool him. Walcott had no choice but to give up, passing the ball back to Xia Qi on the edge of the penalty area. Xia Qi spread his arms wide, firmly blocking Michael and Ashley Cole behind him, his back to the goal, and gently pushed the ball to Arteta, who was following up. Arteta received the ball and gently pushed it again. At this moment, Xia Qi had already turned sideways and raised his foot. Everyone thought his pass was simply to Giroud and Walcott, who had cut inside without the ball. Who knew that Xia Qi would pass to the left post? Chamberlain appeared unmarked at the left post. Chamberlain also played around, leaping high to meet the ball and chesting it into the goal. Offside. Offside. Terry rushed to the referee immediately, and the linesman hesitated for a moment before raising his flag. The referee immediately disallowed the goal, and Arsenal players surrounded him to discuss it, while Wenger protested to the fourth official on the sidelines. Only Xia Qi remained calmly waiting for the restart in the center circle. Actually, Xia Qi was amused and annoyed. This referee must have come with a mission. Did AI not know if there was offside? Since the pass was made, there was definitely no offside. Unfortunately, VAR technology hadn't entered the field at that time. Whether there was offside or not was up to the referee. The score remained 2-2. Arsenal, despite being at home, didn't have the advantage of home advantage. The game continued. Although the goal was disallowed, the pressure on Chelsea didn't diminish. After the restart, Chelsea seemed hesitant and couldn't replicate their previous attacking style. Conversely, Arsenal, with Xia Qi's link-up play, became increasingly fluid. Combinations that used to require 7 or 8 touches now only needed 3 or 4. While Arsenal's attack lacked the fluid, beautiful flow of their unbeaten season, it possessed its own unique charm. Chapter 40. No game-winning goal, no football. One player was hesitant and timid, the other completely unleashed his full potential. The momentum on the field began to shift in Arsenal's favor. In the 80th minute, Torres quickly evaded Mertesacker and shot towards the near post, but the ball struck the post. Jenkinson cleared the ball with a long kick, and it was passed to Xia Qi by Cazorla. Xia Qi wasn't in a hurry to attack, because he saw Chelsea quickly retreat after Torres' shot hit the post. At this point, a counter-attack wouldn't be very effective. Cazorla, and Arteta passed the ball around in their own half. When Chelsea pressed forward, a long pass from the back found Giroud in the penalty area. Giroud and Terry jumped together to contest a header, and Giroud was knocked away by Terry in mid-air. Upon landing, Giroud didn't immediately check his chest for injury, but instead fixed his hair. Xia Qi, watching from a distance, was practically beaming with joy. He's quite the vain man, but Giroud's good looks are undeniable. Wenger made substitutions. Chamberlain was replaced by Diaby, and Vermaelen replaced Mertesacker. Vermaelen took the captain's armband from Arteta after coming on. Chelsea's Di Matteo did not make a substitution. In the 82nd minute, Arsenal pressed forward. Walcott broke through on the wing and passed the ball across to Giroud in the middle. Giroud blocked Terry and passed the ball back to Xia Qi. After controlling the ball, Xia Qi performed 4 consecutive step hovers on Lampard. Just as Lampard was about to give up, Xia Qi flicked the ball with the outside of his foot and cut into the penalty area. Chelsea's penalty area was under pressure, with Michael Ivanovic closing in on Xia Qi, but Xia Qi flicked the ball with his heel. Left-back Santos made a run from the far post and unleashed a world-class shot from the edge of the penalty area. Sek, as if divinely inspired, tipped the ball over the crossbar with one hand just as it was about to go in. Arsenal then took a corner kick, and Giroud headed the ball, which grazed the crossbar and went out. At this moment, Di Matteo made a move, substituting Oscar for Terry. This substitution was a bit baffling. Terry was arguably Chelsea's best performer. If a defender needed to be substituted to strengthen the attack, the injured Ashley Cole should have been replaced. While Cole played bravely after returning to the field, his injury clearly affected his form. Instead of replacing him, they substituted their best player, leaving everyone scratching their heads. Even Terry himself seemed confused, and after confirming it was him, he cursed and reluctantly left the field. The game continued. With an extra player in midfield, Chelsea did become more proactive, mainly due to Oscar's introduction, which revitalized Mata. This was something Arsenal hadn't anticipated. Wenger thus held Di Matteo in higher regard. In the 86th minute, Mata received a pass from Oscar and pushed the ball towards the near post on the right side of the goal, but Manon caught it on his knees. In the 91st minute, Torres headed the ball across, and Oscar's world-class shot hit his own teammate Hazard. Newly substituted Vermaelen cleverly chipped the ball to Xia Qi. At the same time, Ramirez and Lampard charged towards Xia Qi one after the other. Due to the suddenness of the attack, their double teaming wasn't synchronized. Ramirez was rushing a bit too fast. He and Lampard were separated by a body length, which was enough for AI. During Xia Qi's charge, he suddenly cut the ball away. Ramirez, thinking he was changing direction, immediately braked and slowed down. However, Xia Qi accelerated again. He had created a rhythm difference. Ramirez lost his balance and was unable to intercept. Seeing Xia Qi about to pass him, Ramirez, in desperation, stretched out his arm to block Xia Qi's path. This was an instinctive action. At this moment, an experienced player would have grabbed the hem of the jersey. A free kick from the backfield was awarded. Xia Qi immediately realized this was an opportunity. He immediately sent the ball forward, accelerated, and without dodging, forced his way through. Lampard was only a step behind Ramirez. Seeing Xia Qi pass the ball out, he saw an opportunity and immediately accelerated forward. However, Ramirez's outstretched arm failed to act as a barrier. Under Xia Qi's absolute power, he didn't even have a second to buy his teammate. In a flash, Xia Qi raised his left foot and poked the ball between Lampard's outstretched legs. This nutmeg was brilliant. It not only marked the beginning of a counter-attack, but also averted the current predicament of being sandwiched between two opponents. Ramirez reacted, turning to grab Xia Qi's shirt. Just when he thought he could save Lampard at the minor cost of a yellow card, Xia Qi exerted force with both legs and simultaneously pulled his arm back. A tremendous pulling force snapped his fingers apart. After being pegged through the legs, Lampard quickly turned around, thinking Ramirez would be fine regardless, buying him a second or two. However, Xia Qi was almost unaffected, even bumping Lampard with his shoulder as he charged forward. Staggering forward, Lampard was incredibly frustrated. Being outmaneuvered this time was unfair. Ramirez, a terrible teammate. The three-man brawl was so chaotic that the fans were dazzled, barely able to see clearly in the blink of an eye. All they knew was that Xia Qi had taken on two opponents and won. Not only had he won, but he had also launched a counter-attack. Arsenal fans jumped up excitedly, waving their fists and shouting, "Charge!" Arsenal launched a three-pronged attack. Although everyone was exhausted, they still pushed forward with all their might. Diaby, who had just come on, was the fastest. Xia Qi, rushing into the penalty area, didn't immediately pass the ball. He waited until David Luiz closed in and stretched out his leg before moving. Xia Qi dodged Luiz's tackle with a quick touch and then forced his way in. This highlighted the flaw in Di Matteo's substitution. Cech was exposed to Xia Qi. Ashley Cole and Ivanovic quickly covered Cech's shooting angle. Xia Qi raised his left foot and chipped the ball. The ball, spinning wildly, rounded Ivanovic's right and flew towards the far corner of the goal. Cech cursed, "Fuck you," and immediately lunged forward. In mid-air, he angrily thought, "What a monster. He's one-on-one with me, and he still doesn't shoot." Little did he know that for AI, whoever has the higher scoring rate shoots, regardless of whether it's a one-on-one situation. At this moment, Diaby, unmarked, boasted a 96% scoring rate, while Xia Qi's own scoring rate was also high, over 60%. But AI knew how to choose. It chose the higher one. Diaby sprinted forward, leaped high, and slammed his forward into the ball. With a goal so close and the ball so fast, Cech's diving save was more of an act. 91 minutes and 34 seconds. Diaby scored the winning goal. After scoring, Diaby covered his face with his jersey and ran towards Xia Qi. No winning goal, no football. Miracle Boy, assisting his teammate to score the winning goal in stoppage time. Diaby, don't I deserve a name? Chapter 41. The big test from the Champions League. The goal was scored at 91 minutes and 34 seconds. There were 3 minutes of stoppage time, so Chelsea actually had a minute and a half left. Lampard urged Arsenal to get back to the game quickly, which the Arsenal players were certainly reluctant to do. Only Xia Qi remained cold and upright, walking towards the center circle like a traitor. Fortunately, his teammates and fans were used to his style, knowing that in the heat of the game, he was all about principle and no personal relationships. They immediately ignored him and went about their own business. They dragged Diaby, the hero of the game-winning goal, to the Arsenal fans' stands to receive their cheers. The Chelsea players were furious, but the more they looked at Xia Qi, the more they liked him. He was upright, honest, and capable. Lampard approached the referee, demanding the whistle be blown immediately. Perhaps to compensate for disallowing an Arsenal goal, the referee waited until almost time was up before asking them to return. The Chelsea players returned to their positions early, but the Arsenal players strolled back. The Chelsea fans were enraged, booing the Arsenal players at the top of their lungs. Despite the delays, the whistle finally blew. Chelsea kicked off. Lampard passed directly to Hazard, who cut inside, executed a Marseille's turn, and simultaneously shoved Arteta down with his large rear end. Before falling, Arteta also pulled Hazard down, thinking, giving up a free kick is better than a counter-attack. However, Hazard, surprisingly, didn't commit the foul. With lightning speed, he got up and quickly took the free kick. Only after taking the kick did he glance at the referee, and seeing the referee signal play on, Hazard was finally relieved. Tonight's referee is a true goose, referring to Arsenal's favoritism. All that talk of anti-goose undercurrents in English football is a lie. Tonight he disallowed a goal against Arsenal and allowed me to steal a chicken, a slang term for cheating, so adorable. The ball flew forward, and Torres emerged from the crowd, successfully beating the offside trap. He chested the ball forward, preparing for a one-on-one with a goalkeeper, but then the referee blew his whistle, changing the decision to foul by Arteta, awarding Chelsea a free kick. That brain fart was incredibly long, comparable to Balotelli's. Note 1, see author's note. The Spanish golden boy was stunned. Just a second ago, Hazard was praising the referee, but he charged at him, roaring. Di Matteo on the sidelines immediately complained to the fourth official, but seeing no response, he publicly cursed. Chelsea fans were furious. They tried to climb down from the stands to confront the referee, but were firmly stopped by security. Chelsea took the free kick, and the match ended. A spectacular London derby was ruined by the referee's poor performance. The Arsenal players, who won the game with a last-minute goal, lost their joy, barely interacting with the fans, and quickly entered the players' tunnel. The referee, escorted by police, also hurriedly left. Angry Chelsea fans left the stadium and became violent that night, with police sirens blaring in North London until after 5 a.m. After the match, the referee became the main focus of the derby. Di Matteo, I never knew Premier League referees could be so amateurish. In Italy, referees of this caliber wouldn't even be able to officiate in Serie B. Wenger, the result was fair. And everyone saw the process. Arsenal didn't benefit from the officiating. We had a very beautiful goal disallowed for offside. Ferguson, this is the stupidest decision I've ever seen. Some people, because of politics, region, and stance, are ruining the sport of football. I think a 3-3 draw would have been more reasonable. After the sixth round of the Premier League, Manchester United lost 2-3 to Tottenham, allowing Arsenal to overtake Chelsea and Manchester United to become the Premier League leaders. Arsenal's next match is also a London derby, as they will face West Ham United away. However, before that, they must complete their Champions League group stage match at home against Olympiacos, a major test for both this summer break and Arsenal. After the match, Arsenal, Xia Qi, and the referee dominated the headlines of major media outlets. Headlines included 4 consecutive wins. The most valuable transfer this summer, overtaking Chelsea and Manchester United. The Arsenal is back, Ferguson angrily criticizes, foolish. A 3-3 draw would have been fair, and Miracle Boy creates another miracle. The Champions League is his biggest test. Xia Qi became a media darling and an internet sensation, with every topic about him generating significant buzz. Awesome. Arsenal 14 points, Chelsea 13, Manchester United 12, Manchester City 11. Arsenal is finally no longer worried about finishing in the top 4. Come on, here's 4th place for you, you're off the top spot. Arsenal are in high spirits right now. Once the Champions League knockout stage starts, their squad depth will be exposed, and falling out of first place is inevitable. It's just that finishing in the top 4 this year will be much easier. I'm only concerned about Xia Qi's performance. 14 goals in 4 games, leading the Premier League Golden Boot race. Is there a possibility he could be this year's European Golden Boot winner? Messi has scored 12 goals so far this season, including 2 in the Champions League. Ronaldo has 13 goals in La Liga and 3 in the Champions League. Xia Qi has 14 goals in the Premier League and 0 in the Champions League. To compete with Messi and Ronaldo for the European Golden Boot, you need at least 50 league goals, Champions League aside for now. Last season, 2011 to 2012, Messi scored 50 goals in 37 La Liga games, and Ronaldo scored 46 goals in 38 games. Judging from Xia Qi's goal-scoring efficiency, it's slightly higher than Messi and Ronaldo, but it's uncertain whether he can maintain it. Messi and Ronaldo are inhuman, even 3rd place would be fine. Why fight for 3rd when you can fight for 1st? Xia Qi's goal-scoring rate is higher, and if he can maintain it, it's entirely possible for him to beat Messi and Ronaldo. If you want to maintain it, use Nanfu. After the match against Chelsea, Arsenal had a day off. It has to be said that Arsenal's player management is better than Manchester City's. It has a whole set of scientific management systems and processes. However, this academic club that emphasizes scientific management is the largest injury camp in the entire Premier League. Isn't that ironic? When Xia Qi rests at night, the system helps him repair his body, so the word rest is not in his dictionary. The next day, he reported to the Colney training ground as usual. He found Wilshere and Szczesny warming up under the guidance of Pat Rice. Xia Qi and Szczesny had played a match together and were fairly familiar with each other, while Wilshere was someone he'd only heard of but never seen. Hey, boss, why you check Szczesny? Good morning. Szczesny's full name is Wojciech Szczesny, but his teammates usually call him Wojciech or 3C. Wojciech, is your injury fully healed? The team doctor said it's fine. Welcome back, you and Wilshere. Xia, your arrival is just in time. 3C in goal, Wilshere passes, you shoot. I'm fine, but I'm very focused during training, the kind where I don't care about anyone else. Although Xia Qi was answering Pat Rice's question, his eyes were on Wilshere. Xia Qi was afraid that his AI-powered self would clash with his spoiled prince. Something like this had happened before. After the match against Manchester City, some minor team squabbles were resolved. So, men must go through thick and thin together to have true friendship. I'm fine. The referee blew his whistle and changed the decision just as the attacking team was about to score. This was also true. This incident occurred during the 14th round of the Premier League this year, in a match between Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur. The score was 3-3. Near the end of the match, Haaland was fouled and fell to the ground, but immediately got up and passed the ball, a clever move. The referee initially ordered play to continue, but when Greeley had a one-on-one opportunity with a goalkeeper, he blew his whistle and awarded a free kick to Manchester City. Haaland subsequently published a lengthy article criticizing the referee. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42: A Show of Force. I'm fine. Szczesny answered first. Wilshere patted Xia Qi on the back and said, I'll do anything for victory, for Arsenal. This wasn't just empty talk. In England, many people do have deep feelings for their clubs, but under the onslaught of money, very few can hold on. I'm incredibly loyal to the club, this is my home, so, more money is needed. After the three trained for an hour, Xia Qi exited the AFK mode. Xia Qi was serious about training. Looking at the training suggestions given by the AI, he earnestly said to Wilshere, Wilshere, can I tell you my feelings and requirements? Of course. I like you to make some passes with anticipation. I mean, you don't need to find where I am. Just pass to where you should pass, and of course, the position can't be miles away from mine. I don't have a weak foot, so you don't need to worry about how to pass to me comfortably. I have almost no weaknesses in shooting, so whether it's a ground ball or a high ball, I don't care as long as you're happy. Wilshere's mouth gaped open, big enough to swallow an egg. I like the way you brag. I almost believe you. After resting for more than 10 minutes, the three continued. An hour later, Wilshere was speechless. In the following 2 days of training, the Wilshere-Xia connection became a common sight on the training field. On October 4th, Xia Qi's first Champions League match began. To support their son, Xia Qi's parents specially came from Manchester. They refused Wenger's complimentary tickets and used Xia Qi's family tickets instead. Family tickets, while not as valuable as Wenger's VIP tickets, are a favorite among die-hard fans. These seats are not for sale to the public, they belong to the club and various fan associations. Located behind the goal, this section offers a clear view of the players' movements, making the cheers and boos from here truly impactful. The stand is also low. Fans on the first tier can get up close and personal with the players by crossing the barriers and jumping over the advertising boards. Of course, first, you have to get past the security guards. The Mike family, Arsenal's most devoted fans, are currently in this section with Xia Qi's parents. During Xia Qi's warm-up, unable to interact during the match, he deliberately went down to the stands to greet his parents. This revealed their identities, and the fans in the stands immediately applauded them, leaving the two elders flustered and blushing. Xia, how many goals tonight? Alice shouted to Xia Qi. Xia Qi responded with a 6+1 move. Arsenal fans already knew the correct meaning of the gesture, and the entire stadium responded with a 6+1. Even Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, never imagined that it wouldn't be the Qin dynasty that unified the world, but rather the 6+1 gesture. On the live television broadcast, sharp-eyed fans also spotted a special spectator, England national team manager Roy Hodgson. In 2012, apart from Rooney, England truly had no other capable strikers. The fans began to get excited, cheering and shouting towards the section where the old man was sitting. Hodgson's appearance was unexpected. He hadn't informed the club or players beforehand, nor had he disguised himself. His behavior displeased Wenger. What a vulgar and impolite Englishman. Most club coaches don't like national team managers, especially when they're short-handed. Tonight, Xia 04 had already taught Wenger a lesson. For Wenger, who aspired to a breakthrough in the Champions League, tonight he had to go all out, like a lion hunting a rabbit. Wilshere and Szczesny, both fresh from injury, were immediately included in Wenger's starting lineup, demonstrating his emphasis on the Champions League. However, Hodgson's presence caused Wenger some concern. He feared Hodgson would call up Wilshere. Compared to Xia Qi, Wilshere was far too injury-prone. Despite Xia Qi's numerous post-match lapses in form requiring assistance from teammates, his physical condition remained consistently excellent. Wenger reassured himself, "Don't scare yourself. Nobody knew Wilshere would return tonight. He's here to see Xia Qi. That kid's tough and resilient, he'll be fine." Xia Qi and his teammates were unaware of this little incident. At that moment, Xia Qi stood in the players' tunnel listening to the Champions League theme song, a rather dignified piece, which, when accompanied by Chinese characters, became quite comical. "You'll never play football in this life, so what are you doing here, silly girl? Play Barcelona, play Barcelona, play Bayern Munich, my Arsenal is already destroyed. Facing another clash with the universe, I can't help but want to fly right now, you idiot. Don't kill Bayern, thank you Barcelona, for trying to wipe out my Arsenal. Play Barcelona, play Barcelona, play Bayern Munich, my Arsenal is already destroyed." As the song ended, Xia Qi was still full of enthusiasm, wishing she could play against Barcelona and Bayern right now. Viewers, welcome to Tencent Sports Channel's live broadcast of the 2012-2013 UEFA Champions League Group B match between Arsenal and Olympiacos. The players are now entering the field. Both teams won their previous matches. This match is a battle for the top spot in Group B. Arsenal's midfield maestro Wilshere and starting goalkeeper Szczesny have recovered from injury and are in the starting lineup. Arsenal just won the London derby, their morale is high, their form is excellent, and their squad is complete. They are expected to win tonight's match. However, Olympiacos is no weak team. They defeated Bundesliga powerhouse Schalke 04 in their last match. Now let's take a look at the starting lineups. On the pitch, ding dong. Please select training or to match mode. Match. Please select your position, A forward, B. A detected the current situation of the hosts team, matching the hosts, ghost pancake hero, attribute. The offside ghost, appearing and disappearing like a phantom. The greatest heroes are those who score countless goals. Please select auto mode or one-click AFK mode. Friendly reminder, during AFK, the system will automatically complete various indicator actions for the host. One-click AFK. Easy AFK, one-click automatic completion, freeing your feed and bringing the host a relaxed and enjoyable stadium experience. The match experience officially begins. Xia Qi stood in the center circle waiting for the kickoff, his eyes full of pity. Underdog, if I bring out the ghost cake hero, how will you deal with it? Olympiacos kicked off first. They were not afraid of strangers at the Emirates Stadium, showing a bit of the fearlessness of a newborn calf. After a few passes, they were already at the edge of Arsenal's penalty area. Paulo Machado made a through pass from the left corner of the penalty area, and Mitroglou, holding off Vermaelen, unleashed a powerful shot. The ball was too fast, and Szczesny dared not catch it. Only able to tip it over the crossbar. Less than a minute into the game, they had already given the home team a taste of their own medicine. Although AI was controlling his body, Xia Qi could still feel his face burning. Little brother, ruthless, you're up to no good. Olympiacos 5-4-1 lineup, goalkeeper, Roy Carroll, defenders, Modesto, Tarosidis, Holebas, Maniatis, Manolis, midfielders, Paulo Machado, Abdon, Greco, Saivas, forward, Mitroglou. Arsenal 4-4-2 lineup, goalkeeper, Szczesny, defenders, Gibbs, Mertesacker, Vermaelen, Jenkinson, midfielders, Cazorla, Arteta, Wilshere, Chamberlain, forwards, Xia Qi, Podolski. Chapter 43 Tonight, the brutality emperor won't eat the dragon, he'll eat the defender instead. Szczesny tipped the ball over the crossbar, giving Olympiacos their first corner. Paulo Machado took the corner, and Jenkinson and Abdon leaped at the near post to contest the ball, both misjudging it and missing their headers, sending the ball flying into the middle. In the middle, SYNOPSIS charged in from the outside, using a run-up in front of the goal, and before Szczesny could dive, he snatched the ball, his forward flashing as it hurtled towards the goal. At the last second, Szczesny barely managed to tap the ball with his fingertips, deflecting it to the goal line. In the nick of time, Vermaelen appeared, clearing the ball before it hit the ground. The ball flew out of the penalty area, and SYNOPSIS landed, clutching his head in frustration and letting out a roar. Szczesny, landing on the ground, shouted at Vermaelen, "I love you," not literally, just an exclamation. Within 2 minutes of the start, Arsenal fans were startled twice. Outside the penalty area, Arteta passed the ball forward without stopping it, and Wilshere immediately followed up with a long chip, sending the ball behind the Olympiacos defender. Xia Qi. Arsenal fans jumped up from their seats. A streak of red and white lightning broke through the last line of defense, chasing after the ball. It turned out that Xia Qi, who had been dominating the opposing defenders, suddenly accelerated the moment Wilshere passed the ball, shaking off Modesto, who was marking him, and as Tarosidis turned, he swept past him, breaking through the entire Olympiacos defense. Offside trap success. Tarosidis chased after Xia Qi, praying that Xia Qi, like the ninth master, had a world-class first touch, an average second, and an amateur third. That way, he might be able to catch up with Xia Qi. The ball obediently stopped in front of him with Xia Qi's foot. The stop only made Xia Qi less than half a second slower. Tarosidis was disappointed, he could now only hope for Xia Qi's third touch. Under everyone's gaze, Xia Qi dribbled forward, striding ahead with incredible speed. Was this dribbling skill truly world-class? With each step Xia Qi took, Tarosidis' despair increased by 1. Arsenal fans could finally breathe a sigh of relief, shouting at the top of their lungs, "1-on-1! 1-on-1! Xia Qi! Xia Qi! Xia Qi!" Olympiacos' previous forward press had been too far forward, and Arsenal's counter-attack was so resolute and sharp. The spearhead of the counter-attack, Xia Qi, had no weaknesses, giving the Olympiacos defenders no chance. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Xia Qi strode forward. Olympiacos goalkeeper Roy Carroll had no better option than to rush out of his goal. Roy Carroll hadn't dared to lower his center of gravity, fearing Xia Qi's chip shot. He had seen Xia Qi's tribute to Beckham. As the two closed in, Roy Carroll finally breathed a sigh of relief. But as he adjusted his center of gravity and pressed down, Xia Qi, sprinting at breakneck speed with the ball, suddenly, with the mind of an AI, gently tapped the ball backward and then lightly flicked it up. As the ball bounced behind him, Xia Qi pushed off the ground with both legs, leaping forward while simultaneously hooking his left foot backward, striking the ball that had just bounced and was now falling. After the strike, the ball rose rapidly from behind Xia Qi, tracing an arc, flying over his and the goalkeeper's heads towards the empty goal. A scorpion kick. A scorpion kick with one leg. Only a madman would kick like that. Holy crap. Almost everyone cursed in unison. Skillful and daring, there's another word to describe it, madman. Xia Qi, have you been taking your medication lately? Wenger asked Pat Rice from the coaching bench. Pat Rice was furious. Xia Qi is just a little socially awkward, like Messi. How can you do this? Wenger didn't speak, but pointed to the field. Facts speak louder than words. Pat Rice glanced at the field, his voice much softer. It's cool, isn't it? What if it goes wrong? I want to talk to him. What do you think? The fans at the Emirates Stadium didn't care about the outcome. They only knew that a beautiful goal deserved applause and cheers. Many people clapped until their hands were swollen. In the fans' eyes, Xia Qi's taunting of the goalkeeper was revenge for their initial shock. Domineering. Xia Qi. Brilliant. Arsenal. Beautiful counter-attack. Beautiful goal. Wilshere's first game back sparked with Xia Qi. Zhang Luanzhong cheered for Xia Qi, but what they really wanted to say was, this kid is too arrogant. On the field, the incredibly cool goal didn't change Xia Qi's goal celebration style. He walked back to the center circle with a calm expression. Wilshere ran over to give him a high five, but Xia Qi returned the gesture with his eyes. Wilshere wasn't embarrassed by the missed high five. After all, if you're not embarrassed, it's others who are. He put his arm around Xia Qi's neck and asked, "You did that on purpose, right? You wanted to shut them up, right?" The Xia Qi in his head laughed. "Bro, you know how to imagine things." The Olympiacos fans and players stared dumbfounded when Xia Qi leaped and backheeled the ball. They only came to their senses after the sound of the ball hitting the net. A surge of anger rushed to their heads. Damn it, what's the difference between this and stopping the ball near an open goal? A blatant humiliation. The Olympiacos fans booed angrily, but their noise was drowned out by the cheers of the home crowd. The Olympiacos players looked at Xia Qi, a hint of ferocity in their eyes. Xia Qi cared a lot about this, but he was just a free spectator and couldn't really help. The game continued, and after it restarted, Arsenal fans were surprised to find that Xia Qi was right. Olympiacos had lost their youthful arrogance. A quick counter-attack, a skillful goal, hit Olympiacos squarely on the head, waking them up and reminding them to stand up straight. Be more composed, was Coach Jardim's instruction. But composure was futile. Arteta and Cazorla led the midfielders and defenders to expand their defensive range. Cazorla burst out from behind Chamberlain, disregarding sportsmanship, using his physical advantage to force Greco aside and steal the ball from his feet. The ball was passed to Wilshere, then set up again for Olympiacos on the edge of the penalty area. There, Xia Qi appeared out of nowhere, receiving the ball and charging forward like a tank on full throttle, smashing through all the defense. Reaching the ball's trajectory, he unleashed a powerful shot. The ball was incredibly fast. Roy Carroll only saw a flash of white light before it was in the net. He didn't even have time to watch, let alone make a save. Is Xia Qi paying homage to Rooney or Vieri? This is the style of a tall center forward, so brutal. Tonight, the brutal emperor isn't eating dragons, he's eating defenders. At this moment, only 8 minutes into the game, Arsenal were leading 2-0. The Emirates Stadium erupted in cheers. You little brat. Let's see if you dare scare us again. Our ice cream prince, vengeful, specializes in eating defenders. Chapter 44 In the Name of God, Unleashing a Bloodbath. The game continued, and Olympiacos suffered 2 goals in quick succession. They realized the gap between reality and their ideals. They played even more cautiously, often passing the ball before Arsenal players could even get close. No matter how fast Arsenal players run, they can't outrun the ball. This strategy was sound, but it demanded precise positioning from the players. Rapid passing was like a delicate instrument, even a small mistake could lead to collapse. Only Barcelona and the Spanish national team could execute this flawlessly. Other teams could improvise, but making it their main strategy would inevitably cause some problems. In the 12th minute, under high pressing, Paulo Machado, trying to avoid Wilshere's challenge, passed the ball to Arteta. Olympiacos tiki-taka made a mistake after 6 passes. Arteta, having received a gift, was immediately surrounded by Paulo Machado and Abden. Through the gaps in the defense, Arteta passed the ball to Chamberlain. The latter surged forward, charging into Olympiacos' half. Olympiacos, displaying the level of the Greek Super League champions, retreated in an orderly, undulating manner. Their tactical execution alone explains their victory over Schalke 04. Had they not been overconfident tonight, pushing forward with fast breaks, which were countered by Schalke's tactics, it might have turned into a tough, arduous battle. Olympiacos coach Jardim glanced warily at Wenger, inwardly regretting his decision. Trying to play tactics in front of a tactical mastermind was like dropping a large axe in front of a master strategist. Chamberlain dribbled the ball for several meters before finally being intercepted. Not only was he blocked from the front, but he was also surrounded from the right and behind. Greek football is heavily influenced by Germany, with German coaches making up more than half of the coaches in the Greek Super League. The high-pressing style, the mad dog style, popular in the Bundesliga in recent years, is also prevalent in the Greek Super League. It involves using more aggressive running to create numerical superiority in specific areas for a press. Actually, this tactic isn't new, the Italians have been using it for a while. The novelty lies in Klopp and Rangnick's integration of defensive concepts into the attacking trident, thus creating the entirely new football term defensive forward. This revolutionized modern football. At this moment, the player marking Chamberlain was an Olympiacos midfielder, not a defender. Before the encirclement closed in, Chamberlain passed the ball to Wilshere. Before the ball even reached his feet, Greco rushed in, and Wilshere deftly chipped the ball over Greco's head, sending it flying into the penalty area. And then, Xia Qi appeared again, like a ghost, his back to the goal, arms outstretched, firmly holding off the defenders Maniatis and Tarosidis, before passing the ball back to the on-rushing Podolski. Podolski swept past Xia Qi, simultaneously drawing the ball away and poking it into the near corner of the goal. The ball rolled past the toes of the defender who was trying to intercept it, nestling against the inside of the post and into the net. The goalkeeper, hampered by his vision, was several steps too slow, merely glancing at the goal line before giving up on the save. Arsenal scored again. Arsenal fans were overjoyed. Was this the so-called dark horse? Olympiacos players were also a bit stunned. Staring blankly at their own goal, their minds filled with thoughts like, is this the foundation of a powerhouse? Podolski sprinted from one end of the pitch to the other. They're insane. They're going to go on a killing spree. How long has it been? 12 minutes. 3 goals in just 12 minutes. Are they going to unleash a killing spree in the name of God tonight? I doubt it. The Olympiacos coach will probably tighten their defense. Olympiacos wanted to pull off a knockout attack tonight, but they messed it up. Arsenal's counter-attacks were too quick, creating shots in just a few touches, and they all found the net, completely overwhelming Olympiacos. Zhang Lu did have a premonition. After Olympiacos' fourth kickoff, they did indeed retreat into defensive posture. But Zhang Lu only foresaw the beginning, not the end. Olympiacos tightened their defense, lacking attacking desire, and lost possession shortly after the whistle blew. After a few passes, the ball reached Wilshere's feet. Maniatis, assigned to mark Xia Qi, was startled and quickly positioned himself behind Xia Qi, trying to cut off the Wilshere-Xia Qi connection. However, when he leaned back, he bumped into thin air. Xia Qi, whom he had been marking, had vanished. It was like a parent with a child turning their head to look at a beautiful woman or handsome man, only to find their child, who had been right in front of them, gone when they turned back. Maniatis broke out in a cold sweat and immediately searched around. He saw Xia Qi appear behind his teammate Terrasitas, near the far post. Maniatis immediately raised his hand and shouted, "Offside! Offside!" Amidst the shouts of offside, Xia Qi leaped high at the far post and scored with a spectacular header. Xia Qi. Qi. When did he appear there? That goal was too easy. On the sidelines, the linesman hesitated for a moment before raising his flag. Beep. The referee immediately gestured that the goal was invalid. Xia Qi, with an expression of indifference, walked towards the center circle, while his teammates angrily surrounded the referee. Wenger also rushed out from the coaching bench, yelling at the fourth official, "Are you all this unprofessional? Whether it's offside or not depends on the moment of the pass, not the player's final position. Calm down. Calm down, sir." In the Penguin Live broadcast room, after the replay of Wilshere's pass and Xia Qi's run was shown, everyone realized that it really was a good goal. In the current situation where VAR technology cannot be used as a basis for judgment, the referee's decision is final. Although the goal was disallowed, Magnetis's back was soaked with cold sweat. He heard the head coach yelling, "Shit, please concentrate. Don't let him out of your sight again." Maniatis initially thought the task was simple, and he assumed he'd lost a child due to his inattentiveness. However, once the match started, Xia Qi's erratic off-the-ball runs made Maniatis realize his mistake. No wonder his wife constantly complained about how hard it was to take care of the child. It really was difficult and hard to keep an eye on. In the 35th minute, Chamberlain displayed his prowess on the left flank, tearing apart Olympiacos' right-wing defense. Xia Qi suddenly darted out like a rabbit, closing in on Chamberlain. Maniatis immediately marked him closely, preventing Chamberlain and Xia Qi from combining. Maniatis gave himself a 9 out of 10 for this defensive play. Just 1 point shy of a perfect score, to avoid becoming complacent. Chamberlain cut inside the penalty area, glanced at Xia Qi, and unleashed a curling shot. Roy Carroll made a last-ditch save, the ball looping past his fingertips and hitting the post. Maniatis then remembered Xia Qi, but Xia Qi was nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, Xia Qi burst through the crowd, met the ball head-on, and slotted it into the net over Roy Carroll's head 4-0. Xia Qi completed his hat trick at halftime. The Olympiacos coach was furious, yelling at Maniatis, "You idiot, how did you mark him? Terrasitas, you go mark that boy." Maniatis wasn't angry with the coach, instead, he was grateful for his rescue. Better to lose a friend than himself, it's the same all over the world. 4 goals down at halftime, Olympiacos must find a way to contain Xia Qi, or a massacre is inevitable. Xia Qi's style tonight is different from before. Tonight he's like a dark style, a ghostly assassin. A killer lurking in the night, impossible to defend against. Olympiacos' defense faces a major test. Chapter 45, The dark horse overwhelms the opponent in the first half, turning into a white horse. The game continued, and Xia Qi became the focus of Olympiacos defense. Wherever he appeared, he was surrounded by 2 or 3 players. Initially, the defense seemed effective, but later it became clear that Xia Qi was too unpredictable. More accurately, his football intelligence was too high. For example, in the 42nd minute, Chamberlain successfully broke through on the right flank again, cutting inside. At this moment, Xia Qi suddenly shook off the defense of Tarosidis and Holubis, dashing past Podolski like an arrow towards the far corner of the goal. Chamberlain cut inside plus Xia Qi shake off the defender's rush towards the goal equals Chamberlain assist Xia Qi. The logic is sound, right? As a result, all the defenders originally marking Podolski were swept away by Xia Qi. Podolski reached out to Chamberlain for the ball. "I need to regain my dignity." Unfortunately, Chamberlain was selfish, cutting inside into the penalty area and ignoring the unmarked Podolski. Despite Modest's interference, he forced a shot, but the ball hit Modest's leg, missing a golden opportunity. Xia Qi's runs like this might be a coincidence once, but repeated runs reveal his unpredictable nature. If it weren't for the lack of coordination between Arsenal's attacking partners, Olympiacos would have conceded at least 2 more goals. Time slipped away as Arsenal wasted their shots, and first-half stoppage time arrived unnoticed. On the edge of the penalty area, Xia Qi received a pass from Wilshere and passed the ball to Podolski. Then, he charged forward with 2 bodyguards. This is a common tactic, a 1-2 pass. However, Xia Qi, upon receiving the ball, didn't follow the usual path. Instead of shooting or combining with Podolski, he pushed the ball back to the position he was about to sprint towards. That position was now completely empty. The ball rolled into the open space, and Arteta quickly rushed in. Unmarked, he calmly adjusted his position to better facilitate a pass, then unleashed a powerful windmill shot. The ball hurtled towards the goal like a cannonball. Roy Carroll made a brilliant save, but the ball was too fast, and he himself had been tricked by Xia Qi for a second. In football, a second can decide victory or defeat. The first half ended with Arsenal 5-0 Olympiacos, the dark horse of the group stage. Olympiacos crushed in the first half, the dark horse turned into a white horse. Xia Qi scored a hat-trick in the first half, along with 2 assists. All 5 of Arsenal's goals were related to him. This was Arsenal's best performance since the start of the season. If Wilshere can stay healthy and continue to cooperate with Xia Qi like tonight, Arsenal will go far. The atmosphere in the away team's dressing room was somber. Goalkeeper Roy Carroll felt like he was dying. Conceding 5 goals in the first half, he felt like a fish out of water, his fate to slowly wait for death. This sentiment was shared by everyone. When they beat Schalke 0-4 and 2-1, the Olympiacos players wanted to continue their dark horse run, but tonight's Arsenal showed them what a true powerhouse is. The gap between them was insurmountable. Seeing his players' state, Jardim first gave them a long pep talk, saying, "Xia Qi is actually easy to defend. Even if he's great, can he compare to Inzaghi?" But the defenders who had defended against Xia Qi shouted back, "He's much better than Inzaghi. Inzaghi is a nobody, Xia Qi has speed, physique, technique, and a high football IQ." Well, all that pep talk was wasted. Jardim thought, maybe I should substitute the starters, lest they develop a psychological trauma. Jardim led his players back onto the field amidst a chorus of boos. He was quite annoyed. He'd conceded 5 goals, and they were still booing him. But when he saw Arsenal's warm-up players, he realized the Arsenal fans were booing Wenger. Although Xia Qi had been a goal-scoring machine before, none of him was as unpredictable as tonight. Tonight, Xia Qi gave the impression that he could play against him too, provided he could get into that position. This feeling of "I can do it too" thrilled the fans, who bought beer and throat lozenges during halftime, ready to sing their hearts out. Then, Wenger hit Xia Qi. How could they tolerate this? Even a legendary coach couldn't change their minds. So they vented their frustrations. Wenger remained calm. 3 points were secured, now was the time to train, to refine Wilshere's coordination with the other forwards, far more important than pleasing the fans. Arsenal hadn't won a title in 9 years. How far could Xia Qi go alone? Wenger had foresight and a long-term vision. On the other side, Jardim was utterly exasperated. He had just substituted a key player, and Wenger, truly a tactical mastermind. He predicted my prediction. The second half was also exciting, ending 3-1. The scoreline resembled that of a Champions League match, but considering the 5-0 lead in the first half, Olympiacos just wanted to escape. And indeed, that night, they went straight from the stadium to the airport. Ding, the match has ended, rewards are being calculated. The host played 45 minutes in this match, participation B, performance A+, reward 10 attribute points. Ding, regional legend +1. Ding, regional legend +1. After the match, news came that Schalke 04 and Montpellier in the same group had drawn 2-2, and everyone suddenly realized that it wasn't Olympiacos that was strong, but Schalke 04 that was weak. In Champions League Group B, Arsenal had won both matches, accumulating 6 points and topping the group. Olympiacos had 1 win and 1 loss, accumulating 3 points and ranking second. Schalke 04 and Montpellier each had 1 point, temporarily at the bottom. The next day, the media praised the Welsh Hillary connection to the skies, perhaps exaggerating a bit. England manager Roy Hodgson subsequently announced the England national team squad without making a single change. Those already on the list remained, and those not previously included were still absent. Ferguson angrily berated Hodgson, "You've been scouting, and it's all for nothing. Rooney's out of form, Gerrard and Lampard don't mesh, why not try Wilshere and Schweinsteiger?" The old man, of course, hoped he could bring both Schweinsteiger and Wilshere along. However, Hodgson had his own considerations. With Schweinsteiger, Wilshere, Chamberlain, and Walcott all in Arsenal's midfield and attack, he feared Wenger might storm the far with 2 powerful strikers. On the eve of England's home game against Malta, Schweinsteiger and Wilshere combined at Ballon Stadium to defeat West Ham United 1-3. This was also known as the London Derby. The atmosphere at Ballon Stadium was fervent, but it had little effect on Schweinsteiger in his AI form. Schweinsteiger performed as brilliantly as ever, scoring 2 goals and providing an assist, helping Arsenal maintain their lead in the standings. After the 7th round of the Premier League, media attention turned to England's 2014 World Cup qualifiers. England was placed in Group F with Slovakia, Slovenia, Malta, Lithuania, and Scotland. The qualifying rules for the European qualifiers are that the group winner advances, with a second-place team and the best third-place team entering the playoffs. England's second World Cup qualifying match was on October 8. That evening, England defeated Malta 2-0. The results in the same group were as follows: Scotland 1-1 Lithuania, Slovenia 1-0 Slovakia. 4 days later, on October 12, England played away against Slovenia, with the 2 teams drawing 0-0. In the same group, Slovakia 3-0 Scotland, Lithuania 2-0 Malta. After 3 rounds of matches, the current standings in Group F are: England, 7 points, Lithuania, 5 points, Scotland, 4 points, Slovenia, 4 points, Slovakia, 3 points, Malta, 0 points. Logically, these are quite good results, but the media is still bothered by the 0-0 draw against Slovenia. They've offered numerous suggestions, demanding the signing of Xia Qi and Wilshere. If it were just a few suggestions, Wenger wouldn't have overthought it. But a sudden surge of these suggestions seems suspicious to Wenger. He doesn't believe there's no one behind it. He feels there's a hidden hand targeting league leaders Arsenal. This suspicion was confirmed in the Norwich vs Arsenal match. Chapter 46: Winning is my fortune, losing is my fate. Norwich City Football Club, nicknamed the Canaries, is located in eastern England. Their home ground is Carrow Road, and they are a Premier League team constantly fighting to avoid relegation. In the eyes of Arsenal fans, they are easy points. Wenger's squad announcement was primarily for training purposes, including Giroud, who has yet to score, and Giroud, note, whose performance is sometimes abstract. This predictable match was so poorly received that even Tencent Video didn't bother to broadcast it, despite protests from tens of thousands of Xia Qi fans, who opted to broadcast Tottenham vs Chelsea. Xia Qi traveled with the team in this optimistic atmosphere. The disparity in strength between the two teams didn't dampen the Norwich fans' joy. Carrow Road was filled with laughter and cheers. While Xia Qi was warming up, several Norwich female fans stopped him for autographs. This would never happen in London, Manchester, or Liverpool. Perhaps this is where the purest form of football is found. Football, in its truest form, is not about rivalry between clubs. Xia, will you play? Probably not. Wenger had already announced the starting lineup before the match. Xia Qi and Wilshere were both substitutes. Wenger brought them in as a precaution, to secure 3 points. Hearing that Xia Qi wouldn't play, the girls were a little disappointed. "Aren't you going to cheer for Norwich?" "Yes." Perhaps sensing Xia Qi's doubt, the girl added, "You don't think we'd cheer for you, do you?" Xia Qi smiled awkwardly, understanding their meaning. Cheering for her favorite team and idolizing a star weren't contradictory. "Of course we'll cheer for Norwich, but we want to see you play. We believe you'll become a great star." "Thank you. We're a small team. Maybe next year we'll be in the championship, and we won't see a star like you again." "No, there's pure football here. The Premier League needs it." I didn't expect you to be so cold on the field, but so warm off the field. Carrow Road is a small stadium, and the stands are close to the pitch, to say the least. To increase seating capacity, the stands were built up vertically, making them exceptionally steep, and the surrounding stands looked as if they might collapse at any moment. The players felt a sense of oppression on the pitch because of the small size and steepness, and the shouts, applause, and cheers from all directions, each sound piercing their eardrums. The Arsenal players were completely overwhelmed by this home stadium, even feeling a sense of dread. If there were a video game at this moment, you could see the Arsenal players' health points decreasing by 1 with each shout from the Norwich fans. So, at the start of the match, the entire Arsenal starting lineup seemed half asleep, playing like sleepwalkers. Just 2 minutes into the game, Norwich's midfield maestro, Tet, unleashed a world-class strike from just outside the penalty area, easily beating Szczesny's goal 1-0. The passion of the entire Carrow Road Stadium was ignited. Norwich's anthem resounded throughout the stadium, even featuring a male and female duet, a unique phenomenon in the Premier League, and perhaps even the world. Wilshere whispered in Xia Qi's ear, "I love this kind of football atmosphere. When will the Emirates Stadium feel like this? Our home atmosphere isn't bad, it's just not as pure, not as joyful. The fans here, winning is my fortune, losing is my fate. Unlike us who are too focused on victory, too driven by ambition. Yes, 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 winning is my fortune, losing is my fate." "Xia, did you really never go to a full-time high school?" Neither of them panicked over Arsenal conceding a goal. This was the sentiment of all Arsenal fans. In their hearts, it was just an accident. 5 minutes later, having adapted to the atmosphere at Carrow Road, Arsenal began to counter-attack. Under Norwich's tight defense, Arsenal created some opportunities, but Giroud and Podolski seemed to have forgotten their shooting boots. The two sides traded blows, playing with great enthusiasm. When the whistle blew at the end of the first half, it was still 1-0. During the 15-minute break, Wenger broke down Norwich's tactics, dissecting them into smaller segments and assigning specific personnel to each segment. Throughout, he didn't glance at Xia Qi or Wilshere. Perhaps in Wenger's mind, after adjustments, the starting lineup would be enough to win the game. The game resumed, Arsenal continued their relentless attack, and Norwich fought back tenaciously amidst the cheers of the home crowd. Time passed quickly, reaching the 65th minute. Wenger paced back and forth on the sidelines, frowning, for a full minute before finally making a decision and looking towards the substitutes bench. Xia Qi jumped up. But Wenger's gaze swept past him to Wilshere. "Wilshere, go warm up." Wilshere patted Xia Qi on the shoulder. 5 minutes, no, 3 minutes later, you'll be here polishing my boots. Ignorance is truly terrifying. Isn't this just some kind of idiom about warming wine before slaying Ulshwang? So long-winded. Xia Qi shoved him irritably and retorted, "Don't beg me to clean up your mess. I don't want to be someone's father." Wilshere gave Xia Qi the middle finger, smiled, and went onto the field, replacing Aaron Ramsey. 3 minutes passed, 5 minutes passed, 10 minutes passed. Wilshere wasn't without his highlights, but his teammates' finishing was amateurish. With the 76th minute approaching, the score was still 1-0. Wilshere panicked, taking every shot, no matter the chance. Arsenal not only failed to score, but their rhythm was completely disrupted. In the 80th minute, Norwich launched a counter-attack, almost extending their lead. Wenger then remembered Xia Qi. "Xia, go warm up." Xia Qi immediately took off his jacket and put on a yellow vest. Norwich fans loudly welcomed him with boos. When Xia Qi stood next to the linesman waiting to enter the field, the boos from the entire stadium reached a boiling point. This sense of déjà vu filled Xia Qi with emotion. This May, he came on as a substitute in the Manchester City jersey, and was booed by the entire stadium. He vaguely remembers his legs trembling a little back then. Now, never again. This is growth. Ding dong. Please select training or match mode. Match. Please select your position, A forward, B. A detected that your team is currently in trouble, matching your fox in the penalty area attribute. The more defenders in the penalty area, the more relaxed and at ease you will be, appearing like a fox in potentially fatal spots. Please select auto mode or one-click AFK mode. Friendly reminder, during AFK, the system will automatically complete all your actions. One-click AFK. Easy AFK, one-click automatic completion, freeing your feet, bringing you a relaxed and enjoyable stadium experience. The match experience officially begins. Xia Qi's entire demeanor then became more CEO-like, and the girl's exclamations reached his ears. So handsome. Note, João is a black center-back born in Ivory Coast, Giroud is a white center-forward, French. So it wasn't the author who made the typos, referring to Giroud and João interchangeably. João came through Arsenal's youth academy and carried the expectations of Gunners fans, but as a defender, he was naturally a scapegoat. Therefore, like Maguire, he became the subject of many memes. To be honest, his ability wasn't bad, he was Hamburg's captain and it was a permanent transfer. If you were weak, Hamburg wouldn't have wanted him. A centre-back. Who would want a general in that position? That's a meme, like Maguire's aircraft carrier turning around. Maguire's reputation is recovering now, isn't it? Norwich 4-4-2 lineup, goalkeeper. 1 Rudy, defenders. 5 Basson, 6 Michael, 18 Garrido, 2 Martin, midfielders. 4 Johnson, 27-8-8, 12 Pilkington, 17 Bennett, forwards. 9 Holt, 14 Hollyholm. Arsenal 4-4-2 lineup, goalkeeper, Szczesny, defenders, Gibbs, Mertesacker, Giroud, Jenkinson, midfielders, Cazorla, Arteta, Ramsey, De Bruyne, forwards, Giroud, Podolski. Chapter 47. It's not that we're incompetent, but that Xia Qi is too cunning. Wenger, still hoping to revive French striker Giroud and bring on Xia Qi to replace Diaby, switched Arsenal to 4-3-3 formation. On the pitch, Norwich was attacking. Just as they pushed a ball past the halfway line, Cazorla made a precise tackle, sending the ball flying to Arteta's feet. Arteta then delivered a long pass, the ball landing perfectly in front of Xia Qi. Xia Qi, charging forward, controlled the ball with the instep of his foot, then floored the accelerator. Xia Qi. Watch out, he's going to eat you up. Ouch. Foul him. Norwich fans, who often saw Xia Qi's one-man show on TV, were now about to witness it live. They were conflicted, hoping Xia Qi would pull off his signature move, yet also not wanting their own team to be the one to suffer. A team like theirs, often yo-yoing, doesn't harbor much animosity towards opposing stars, whether it's Xia Qi, Rooney, or anyone else. Instantly, sharp boos erupted from all directions of Carroll Road, but unlike the boos in other stadiums, which were filled with anger and intimidation, Xia Qi could even hear excitement in them. Xia Qi sped forward down the wing, and Norwich sent 4 defenders to double-team him. Unfortunately, Norwich probably hadn't practiced this 4-man double-team tactic before. Their stride frequency and stride length were inconsistent. Otherwise, even if you were in a daze, AI would avoid his attacks, but now. Johnson was the first to rush in front of Xia Qi, launching a massive sliding tackle. Not to mention AI, even the Xia Qi in his head knew that this sliding tackle was nothing more than a death sentence. A tackle must be unexpected and swift, and this kind of aggressive sliding tackle, revealing its ferocity early on, was no challenge for AI. With a simple acceleration, AI caused Johnson's tackle to fail. After passing Johnson, Xia Qi seemed unable to stop and veered out of control, crashing into Arteta. Arteta, lacking experience, assumed Xia Qi was going to knock him aside and quickly braked, lowering his center of gravity to stabilize himself. However, the expected crash didn't happen. As he lowered his center of gravity, Xia Qi slowed down and simultaneously flicked the ball, engaging his waist muscles, twisting his body 90 degrees, pulling the ball with his left foot, switching to his right, completing the final lateral change of direction, and then accelerating away. Amidst gasps, the out-of-control car about to collide with Arteta suddenly drifted. The inevitable crash was averted. Leaving Arteta completely bewildered, his mind a complete blank. Is this world-class dribbling? Then wouldn't the dribbling king, Messi, be as tall as a 7-story building? Bennett was the third, and also the least noticeable. He saw Xia Qi suddenly drift out, barely avoiding a tete, and was surprised for a second. That moment of hesitation was enough for Xia Qi to eat him alive. Xia Qi dribbled the ball past him. Pilkington was the last of the four, and he seemed afraid, retreating while fighting, not daring to charge forward or easily give up his center of gravity. Seemingly the most spineless of the four, he was actually the most capable, because he adopted the most reasonable defense. Xia Qi's fast break failed, but the attack continued. Seeing no chance for a quick counterattack, Xia Qi began to slow down, and the two of them moved forward and backward to the edge of the penalty area. Pilkington felt a defender coming up behind him to cover for him, and suddenly his courage was full, and he could not retreat any further. If he retreated any further, he would be inside the penalty area. Pilkington put his hands behind his back, made a gesture, and then fiercely pounced on Xia Qi. Unexpectedly, Xia Qi seemed to have anticipated this move. He immediately feinted with his right foot, changed direction, and crossed paths with Pilkington, slipping behind him. Michael, who was covering for Pilkington, rushed forward, hoping to catch Xia Qi off guard. However, Xia Qi smoothly passed the ball, turned, and turned, out of his defensive range. Chasing the ball, Xia Qi raised his left foot. Shoot! Xia Qi is going to shoot! Whistle, whistle! Norwich fans shouted in a panic, booing Xia Qi. Xia Qi attracted everyone's attention. Outside their sight, Giroud rushed to a meter from the penalty spot, and Podolski was at the far corner, but he was offside, though he was completely unaware. Xia Qi frowned slightly. As his raised left foot landed, his ankle suddenly twisted, changing his intended strike from the inside of his foot to the outside of his foot. The ball bypassed the waist of defender Garrido, who was rushing forward to block the shot, and quickly rose towards Giroud's head. Giroud dived and headed the ball, clearing what AI judged to be an 80% success rate goal, sending it into the stands. This result was met with a warm welcome from the Norwich fans, who gave the understanding Giroud a thunderous applause. They got to see their favorite star outmaneuver a goalkeeper while maintaining a 1-0 lead. Giroud, you deserve a good guy card. Wenger was anxious, time was running out. He called Xia Qi to the sidelines. The Norwich fans immediately booed Wenger. You stay in the penalty area and try to score with Giroud and Podolski. The cold-blooded Xia Qi didn't answer, only nodded. But after returning to the field, Xia Qi didn't immediately plunge into the penalty area. Instead, he roamed around outside the box with the defenders. This tactic disgusted the Norwich midfielders and defenders. Xia Qi stood on the edge of the penalty area, poised for a thunderous strike at any moment, like the sword of Damocles hanging over their heads. Just as the Norwich players were on edge, Xia Qi suddenly darted towards the goal from the right corner of the penalty area at a 45-degree angle. Pilkington, chasing after him, was startled, while Ballon intercepted in front of him. Xia Qi immediately changed direction and hid behind Giroud. The two quickly double-teamed Giroud, but Xia Qi had vanished. At the same time, Wilshere's pass soared over the bar towards the far corner of the goal. Unable to find Xia Qi, Pilkington looked towards the ball's trajectory, only to see a red and white flash streak past his teammate Martin. Martin, retreating while judging the ball's trajectory, raised his leg to clear it as it fell, hearing his teammate call his name. Before he could even ask what had happened, he saw a leg that wasn't in his line of sight. He immediately understood, but it was too late. Instead of heading straight for the near post, the ball soared into the air, tracing a rainbow in the sky before narrowly missing the on-rushing goalkeeper, Rudy. Rudy, having missed, desperately tried to catch the ball with one hand, but only managed to capture its afterimage. The magnificent rainbow arc continued unimpeded, hanging in the top corner of the other goal. Xia Qi, the stadium DJ shouted, cunning positioning, killer instinct. This goal conceded is innocent for Norwich's boy. It's not that we're incompetent, but that Xia Qi is too cunning. Let's give a round of applause to Xia Qi, who has traveled from afar, and also to the Norwich Warriors who outwitted and outmaneuvered the Fox on the field. This was the atmosphere of Norwich's home ground, a perfect balance of hostility, enjoying the pure joy of football. When the replay was shown on the LED screen, everyone understood. Xia Qi had run behind Giroud, then slipped behind Garrido, who was marking Giroud, using their bodies to block the view before disappearing towards the far corner. The fox's movement, the hunter's pounce. Wow. That positioning, so cunning. Xia Qi must have been a jungle predator in his past life. He's such a master of concealment. That chip shot, so clever. I felt Rudy's despair. Who would have thought Xia Qi would chip it towards the far corner instead of the near post? That's the mindset of a high-level predator. I predicted your prediction. Guys, don't you think Wilshere's pass was perfectly timed? Just the instant Xia Qi hit behind Giroud. In the 87th minute, Xia Qi equalized, slipped into the net, retrieved the ball, and rammed towards the center circle with icy indifference. Chapter 48. No matter how good your skills are, you're doomed when you run into a Premier League referee. A draw. A hard-fought draw. The Arsenal players couldn't remain as calm as Xia Qi. Although they knew time was precious, they all rushed over to ruffle his hair and pat his backside. What a lucky lad, scoring in 5 consecutive Premier League matches. Especially Wilshere, who excitedly jumped onto Xia Qi's back and shouted in his ear, "I was worried you wouldn't see that opening. Tell me, were we brothers or spouses in our past lives? Why are we so in sync?" The Xia Qi in his mind quickly replied, "Brother, it has to be brothers. If we were spouses, I'd rather be Lin Pingzi in this life." A draw didn't satisfy Arsenal. Conversely, Norwich, though a little disappointed, were still satisfied to have gotten a point from Arsenal. When the referee added 2 minutes of stoppage time, the whole stadium erupted in cheers. Anyone with eyes could see that the longer the time went on, the worse it would be for Norwich. Beep. Norwich kicked off, and Arsenal, brimming with confidence, launched an interception. Arsenal's midfield proved superior. Norwich managed only 5 passes before the ball was intercepted by centre-back Giroud. After a few more passes, it reached Wilshere's feet. Pilkington immediately turned to mark Xia Qi. But, that kid's gone again. Hearing Pilkington's exclamation, the Norwich defenders panicked, frantically searching for Xia Qi. Suddenly, Xia Qi darted behind Basson, rushing towards the far corner of the goal, where only the goalkeeper stood. Basson and Martin chased after him amidst their teammates' cries. Xia Qi emerged from behind Basson, but Wilshere's pass found the left side of the penalty spot. Seeing Xia Qi appear at his first choice spot, Wilshere slapped himself on the spot. He remembered Xia Qi saying in training, "Pass what you want, don't worry about me." He'd thought him arrogant then, but now he realized how short-sighted he'd been. His partner, Xia Qi, was surprisingly tall. The left side of the penalty spot was also a good spot. Giroud, having won the ball, unleashed a powerful shot, only to have it blocked by Michael's outstretched leg. Norwich escaped a close call. Mark him. 2-man marking. Mark Xia Qi closely. The Norwich coach was frantic, but he had no better option. 1 wasn't enough, so he tried 2, 2 weren't enough, so he tried 3. But quantity doesn't always guarantee quality. Xia Qi had improved his off-the-ball movement, and this movement was unpredictable and difficult to anticipate. At the same time, Xia Qi was adept at using the players on the field to conceal his movements. Pilkington was nearly driven mad by this hide-and-seek game. He wanted to tell Xia Qi, "You wait, I'll bring my 4-year-old son to play with you." Xia Qi's movement is very clever, did you teach him? Wenger asked Pat Rice, standing beside him, as Xia Qi once again shook off his defender. "Isn't that your job? Are you trying to frame me?" "Hey, Arsene, a natural nose, a natural keen sense, the world of geniuses, let's not try to guess." Wenger rubbed his temples, his voice resentful like a lovesick puppy. "Now, there's another direction to cultivate. What to do? That's your job. I don't work overtime." Time was running out, and the game had entered stoppage time. Arsenal began to press forward with all their might. Cazorla, who had always been Arsenal's defensive anchor, suddenly unleashed a long pass from an extremely long distance, directly finding Xia Qi at the near post. The moment the pass was made, Xia Qi accelerated forward, but Norwich's defenders were not to be underestimated. In that instant, they rushed forward in unison. Offside trap. The linesman immediately raised his flag, ruling Xia Qi offside. Slow-motion replay showed that Xia Qi's offside trap was successful. It was a misjudgment. The linesman was led astray by the defenders. With only a little over a minute left, Norwich had possession. Satisfied with just 1 point, they naturally started poking around in their own half. Arsenal had no choice but to press high up the pitch. Before Xia Qi could reach him, Basson passed a ball to goalkeeper Rudy, who launched a long ball towards Arsenal's half. Norwich striker Holt shot forward like an arrow. Arsenal centre-backs Giroud and Mertesacker desperately chased after Hoyt. Giroud was a little faster, but not by much. As Holt entered the penalty area, Giroud seized the opportunity when Holt slowed down to observe the goalkeeper and immediately made a sliding tackle. Slow-motion replays showed it was a beautiful tackle. However, seeing Holt's pained expression, the referee imagined a foul and sent off a stunned Giroud. Arsenal players surrounded the referee, pleading for a reversal, but the referee remained convinced of his decision. Arsenal could only accept the red card and penalty. Holt earned his own penalty and slotted the ball into the bottom left corner of the goal. Norwich had miraculously scored a last-minute winner against Arsenal in 91 minutes and 46 seconds. The Carrow Road Stadium was in an uproar. They clapped their hands, stomped their feet, and sang the Norwich anthem in unison. While his teammates explained to the referee, Wilshere whispered in Xia Qi's ear, "If it's a red card, wait a minute, I'll kick off, you go for the header." Xia Qi's eyes were shining. Usually, the referee wouldn't blow the final whistle immediately after a penalty was scored. Arsenal still had a chance to kick off, but he didn't know how much extra time the referee could add. Thinking about the time, Xia Qi desperately gestured to Wilshere with his eyes, urging him to go find the referee and make up for the wasted time. But Wilshere couldn't understand such a complicated meaning. "Hey, Xia, you're so rude. How is my tower steel plan? At least give me an answer." "Nonsense. If I had my own will, I would have already run to the referee. Hey, say something." Xia Qi's eyes, "Don't bother me, go bother the referee." Sure enough. After Norwich scored, they returned from their celebrations, and Arsenal kicked off. Arteta saw the forwards rushing into the penalty area and passed the ball to Wilshere, who then lofted a long pass into the box. 1 second ago, Xia Qi was shoving and jostling with Pilkington and Garrido, who were marking him in the penalty area, when suddenly he stopped and broke free, rushing towards the edge of the box. Pilkington and Garrido didn't know what was happening, but keeping Xia Qi in sight was the right thing to do. They followed Xia Qi out, drawing everyone's attention to the outside. In his rush, Xia Qi suddenly braked. He turned back. Then, using a running start, he leaped high into the air, executing a powerful overhead flick, meeting the oncoming ball with a powerful header. The ball, propelled by the force of the shot, hurtled towards the goal. Norwich goalkeeper Rudy made a diving save, but the ball crossed the line a second earlier. After Norwich's dramatic equalizer, Arsenal players erupted in celebration. They pumped their fists and howled. But their joy was premature. The referee, with a nonsensical gesture, disallowed the goal. The reason given was, when Xia Qi jumped, Giroud also jumped in front of him, and the referee believed that Giroud's action interfered with the goalkeeper's judgment. Therefore, the goal was disallowed for goalkeeping interference. Arsenal were furious. Wenger was furious. Xia Qi was furious. Ahem. Eyes. No matter how good your skills are, you're helpless against a Premier League referee. Despite Arsenal's anger and outbursts, the final score remained Norwich 2-1 Arsenal. The 8th round of the Premier League saw the biggest upset of the season. Arsenal suffered their first defeat of the season. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, The System Has a Patch. Beep. The match is over. Arsenal's unbeaten streak has been broken. Norwich striker Holt, who scored the winning goal, was named man of the match. Ding. The match has ended, rewards are being calculated. Host played 10 minutes in this match, participation C, performance A, reward. 5 attribute points. Ding. Regional legend +1. Ding. Regional legend +1. Rewards that usually cheered Xia Qi up failed to bring him joy today. After regaining his composure following the whistle, Xia Qi put his hands on his hips, his eyes fixed on the LED screen in the stands. The resentment in his eyes was palpable even through the screen. A life with cheat codes can't compete with corrupt referees. Damn it. Xia Qi, harboring the deepest malice, suspected there was an undercurrent in English football that would allow Ferguson to retire gracefully. This year's Premier League title must belong to Manchester United. No. Absolutely not. Xia Qi clenched his fists and told himself, a life with cheat codes will never be manipulated. In a rare post-match outburst, Wenger lashed out at the referee and the FA. "I know our Premier League referees are terrible, but I didn't expect them to be so bad as to make 3 wrong calls in one game. Maybe they came here on a mission tonight. If Arsenal becomes an easy target because they don't like criticism or complaints, then from tonight onwards, we'll start arguing and making a scene." After 8 rounds of the Premier League, Chelsea have 6 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss, accumulating 19 points. Manchester United have 6 wins, 0 draws, and 2 losses, accumulating 18 points. Arsenal have 5 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss, accumulating 17 points. Manchester City have 5 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss, accumulating 17 points. Chelsea have returned to the top of the table. Manchester United have overtaken Arsenal, closely following Chelsea. Arsenal and Manchester City both have 17 points, but Arsenal have a better goal difference. At this point, no team in the Premier League remains unbeaten. The title race is now a 4-way battle, the most intense among the top 5 European leagues. Everton 15 points, 5th in the standings, Tottenham 13 points, 7th in the standings, Liverpool 10 points, 13th in the standings. On the training ground, Xia Qi continued to work hard, sweating profusely. His 5 skills and 4 experience bars were at 90%, 92%, 94%, and 95% progress respectively, meaning he would soon be able to equip his new weapon. This was the best motivation. Why did Xia Qi's training last 2 hours longer? He got provoked by Norwich. Nonsense. Pat, our training needs to be scientific. He's only 18, full of energy, and he's got a lot of fire inside him. If we don't push him to his limits, aren't you afraid he'll go out and cause trouble at nightclubs? But, what about his health? Rebecca said, if he doesn't play, I can do whatever I want. We'll rest Xia Qi in the next game against QPR. I never planned to let him play anyway. Our team can't have just one hero. Like against Manchester City, everyone has to be a hero. Arsena, have you thought about the direction for Xia Qi's development? Wenger clutched his head in anguish. You know, I like Messi. I've always wanted to coach him. But I've also always been jealous that Ferguson has Ronaldo, you know that too. When Ronaldo went to Real Madrid, I even bought you a drink. Wait, Professor, shouldn't you pay me back for that drink? Pat, Xia Qi's family's feuding white tea is really good. Have a cup too. If this cup is just to pay for the drinks, I won't drink it. No, how could that be? You have to buy me another cup tonight. This cup of tea is worth 2 cups of drinks. Trust me, I only rip off old friends. Pat Rice. Now, I think it would be great to have a finisher in the penalty area. Pat, look. Xia Qi is different from Inzaghi. He has physique, speed, technique. If we let him wreak havoc in the penalty area, he can forge a path different from Messi, Ronaldo, and Inzaghi, a path that belongs to him. I'm so tormented. Give me a month, no, 2 weeks, and I'll give you Xia Qi's training plan, okay? Pretty much. I've been training Xia Qi's strength and stamina these past few days. I've never seen a player with such high comprehension. He absorbs new knowledge like a sponge. The two exchanged opinions on the general direction of Xia Qi's development. At the end, Pat Rice took a cup of feuding white tea from Wenger's office. Oh, this white tea is really good, it's worth the cost of the wine. Wenger. The day's training is over. Xia Qi returned to the locker room and found 3 or 4 missed calls, all from his good friend Balotelli. Xia Qi thought this show-off must have something to brag about. But to his surprise, the voice on the other end of the phone was very dejected. Xia, I'm going back to Italy. Why? I can't get a starting position here. Mino Raiola wants me to go back. Don't listen to that vampire, Mario. Your problem is that you spend more time off the field than on the field. Stop going to nightclubs. Focus on training. Mancini is your mentor. He will give you a chance. Why don't the coaches like me? Mourinho called me an idiot. Mancini coaxed me here but then put me on the bench. Hearing Balotelli sobbing softly, Xia Qi felt bad too. Don't let Balotelli's burly physique fool you, he's actually quite vulnerable inside. Raised with foster parents from a young age, being black, and not exactly mentally sharp, he faced constant ridicule in Italy, a country rife with racism. Even after becoming a world-renowned football star, he remained a target of mockery. Xia Qi understands Balotelli well because he too grew up amidst discrimination. Balotelli is his only truly confidant, others like Wilshere and Chamberlain are only half friends. Mario, whatever you do, don't go back. I don't know which team that vampire found for you, but he's not really doing it for your own good. Your biggest problem is your lack of self-discipline. Going back to Italy will only make you more unruly. Don't let yourself be ruined in a year. I know, but since you left, no one has wanted to train with me. Apart from the team's training sessions, I haven't done any extra training. Look at you, you're still complaining that Mancini isn't giving you a chance. This is the Premier League. It's the world's #1 league. Your team is Manchester City, a title contender. You don't really think that singing, drinking, and chasing girls will get you a starting position, do you? Xia, I was wrong. Can I be with you? I don't have any friends. Let me ask the boss. He definitely wants me, but he doesn't have the money. That vampire's appetite isn't easy to satisfy. I'll ask. Wait 10 minutes. Ling. Detected a bond between the host and former teammate Balotelli, triggering a hidden quest. Hidden quest, help Balotelli transfer to Arsenal. Quest complete. Reward, system patch. After the system patch is updated, the host can celebrate goals in one-click autoplay mode. Wow, this patch is pretty good. No more walking back to the center circle listlessly after scoring, but completing this task will be difficult. Wenger received a call from Xia Qi, and after learning about it, he was actually quite interested. Most Premier League managers focus on the league, the FA Cup, and European competitions. Wenger is no exception, especially in the Champions League. After losing 1-2 to Barcelona in the final of the 2005-2006 season, Arsenal's Champions League performance has been declining year after year. This is also one of the reasons why they couldn't retain Fabregas and Van Persie. With 3 or even 2 competitions to compete on, squad depth is crucial, and with Giroud's transfer window closed, buying another centre forward isn't out of the question. After a moment's hesitation, Wenger said, "Let me think about it carefully, seriously, okay? A transfer isn't a simple matter. Even though it's the winter transfer window, every aspect involved is crucial." "Thank you, boss." "Mario, I spoke with the boss, and he'll seriously consider it. No matter what, please don't go back. You're already living like this in Manchester without any friends. If you go back, with so many friends and so many social obligations, you might really be ruined. We're still young, not at the age to enjoy life." "Xia, I know, but I just can't control myself." "Thank you, Xia." The day before Arsenal played QPR, Balotelli told Xia Qi that Wenger had spoken with Ivan Kovac, and that fat guy was indeed asking for a high price. Chapter 50 Van Persie is just a thing of the past. In the 9th round of the Premier League, the top 3 matches took place: Chelsea 2-3 Manchester United, Arsenal 1-0 Queen's Park Rangers, and Manchester City 1-0 Swansea City. The Premier League standings saw a dramatic shift in fortunes. Manchester United had 21 points, 7 wins, 0 draws, 2 losses. Arsenal had 20 points, 6 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss, and Manchester City had 20 points, 6 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. Chelsea had 19 points, 6 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. In the Chelsea vs Manchester United match, referee Clattenburg became the main character. Chelsea led Manchester United 1-0 at halftime. Rooney equalized in the 53rd minute, but Chelsea ruled it offside. Slow-motion replays confirmed the offside. Hazard then scored, putting Chelsea ahead again. 2 minutes later, Ivanovic fouled Van Persie outside the penalty area, which should have been a yellow card, but Clattenburg issued a red card. 5 minutes later, Van Persie played the crucial role, equalizing again in the 61st minute. Fueled by the cheers of their home fans, Chelsea, playing with 10 men, grew increasingly resilient. In the 82nd minute, Torres broke through on the left wing, cut inside the penalty area, and engaged in a pulling motion with defender Evra, receiving a yellow card. Having already received a yellow, this resulted in a red card and his dismissal. While the yellow card was justifiable, it raised suspicions of double standards. Why wasn't Evra shown a card for stepping on Torres' ankle earlier? Why wasn't another Manchester United player, cleverly, shown a similar foul on Hazard? For the remainder of the game, Chelsea, playing with 9 men, could only defend passively, conceding another goal in stoppage time. Ultimately, they lost 2-3, but their performance was commendable. After the match, Chelsea manager Di Matteo made a sharp remark, "I'm disappointed with tonight's game. What disappoints me isn't the players, but this league. In Serie A, Juventus always seems to get the referee's help, and tonight our opponents did the same." Before the game, there were rumors that some force wanted someone to retire gracefully. Now I just want to ask the FA, why not just award the title to that person? Let us compete with Manchester City and Arsenal for second place. That would be more in line with the spirit of sports and would make the game more exciting and less disgusting. Ferguson, chewing gum, slowly retorted, "Only the weak complain. Referees aren't gods. Their decisions can be favorable or unfavorable. Manchester United isn't always the one who gets the upper hand." After the match, the refereeing issue stole the headlines of the crucial game, but it's an unsolvable problem. Amidst the media's arguments, Arsenal played in the EFL Cup round of 16. Arsenal faced Reading away, and Wenger fielded a completely reserved lineup, third-choice goalkeeper Damian Martinez, and the attacking trident consisted of Theo Walcott, Andriy Arshavin, and the Chamak, Mirwani Chamak. Chamak made 15 appearances for Arsenal in the 2010-2011 season, 7 of which were full 90 minutes on the bench, meaning he effectively only played 8 games for Arsenal. However, he won 5 penalties, 4 red cards, and 1 own goal, earning him the nickname Chamak. Wenger's lineup suggested he was willing to forego the League Cup. However, Reading, oblivious to the pressure, thrashed Arsenal 4-0 in the first half, fueled by the support of over 40,000 fans at their home stadium, the Medeski Stadium. Wenger wanted to lose, but not like this. So, at halftime, he unleashed a barrage of motivational speeches and encouragement. In the second half, Arsenal, having experienced both triumph and defeat, showcased their status as a top club. They rallied to win 4 goals in quick succession. The two sides were tied 4-4 in regulation time, forcing extra time. In the 93rd minute, Chamak gave Arsenal the lead, but Reading quickly equalized, followed by 2 goals from Walcott. This was a triumph for Arsenal, and for the Premier League's Big Six. It was a thrilling match, one that will forever be etched in the annals of the League Cup. Xia Qi and Alice watched the live broadcast at home, their hearts pounding with excitement. When Walcott scored the go-ahead goal, the two jumped up from the sofa, embracing tightly before springing back as if electrocuted. Those watching on TV were even more thrilled than those at the stadium. Wenger and his players looked dejected after the match. This wasn't the result they wanted. Oh. They got carried away. They should have. After the match, betting companies increased Arsenal's chances of winning the Premier League title this season by 3 points. But it was still lower than the Manchester clubs. With the League Cup concluded, the Premier League enters its 10th round, featuring a clash between Manchester United and Arsenal. This isn't just a battle for the top spot on the Premier League. If Ferguson retires at the end of this season, it will also be a culmination of their lifelong rivalry. Its intensity and impact are undeniable. Ferguson, Wenger is an extremely good coach. Arsenal became great under his leadership. Sunday night will be a very tough match, but we have home advantage and the Red Devil spirit. We will definitely win. Xia Qi looks excellent right now, having already scored 15 goals, while Van Persie has only half that. But I don't think he's better than Van Persie. If I could turn back time, I would still choose Van Persie. Football has never lacked young talents like Xia Qi, but most of them are just shooting stars. Van Persie is different. He has scored for every team in the 20 Premier League teams except Arsenal. I believe that facing his former club on Sunday night, he will complete his Premier League run, while Xia Qi may never achieve that. In the long history of the Premier League, only Nigerian striker Yakubu has ever achieved this feat, and Van Persie will become the second on Sunday night. Online, even Manchester United fans feel that Sir Alex Ferguson is being hypocritical out of jealousy. Arsenal fans even went to the Manchester United official website to leave messages. Summer Chef. 15 goals in 5 Premier League games, 3 goals in 1 Champions League game. Van Persie. 8 goals in 7 Premier League games, 3 goals in 2 Champions League games. Thank you Sir Alex for not buying him. Thank you Sir Alex for not buying him, +1. Thank you Sir Alex for not buying him, +1. Ferguson versus Wenger, Manchester United versus Arsenal, these are all old topics, like reheating leftovers. Van Persie versus Summer Chef, however, is different. It quickly swept across Britain and even Europe and the world. There are also many who support Ferguson's viewpoint. The media approached Wenger, asking him to give his opinion. Wenger: Van Persie gave us passion, and he gave us tears. That's football. What is football? Football is the hormones of youth and the tears of adulthood. 277 games. 132 goals. The legacy shouldn't just be a curse. Moreover, God compensated us with a summer wonder. Normally, Manchester City wouldn't sell him. In fact, half of the team opposed it at the time. And logically, if you were to be sold, it should be to another league, not to us. I think this is God compensating us. Therefore, we shouldn't treat Van Persie with a bitter attitude, we should respect him. After all, he's Arsenal's past, while the summer wonder is our present and future. Wenger is magnanimous, but how can the fans be? Arsenal fans went to Manchester United's official website to leave messages: respect Van Persie's past, respect Van Persie's past +1, respect Van Persie's past +1. How could the Dutch trio of Van Persie swallow this insult? Van Persie: I will definitely score on Sunday night, and I won't celebrate. My goal tally on Sunday will definitely be more than that, kids. The Golden Boot Award is based on a season. The one who laughs last laughs best. Seeing their efforts to fuel the fire were a great success, the media eagerly came to ask Xia Qi again. Xia Qi: he's right, I only have more goals than Messi and Ronaldo for now. Until I break 50 goals, it's really hard to know who will have the last laugh. The media paused for a moment, then burst into laughter. Look at the vision of Wenger and his protege. Pre-match verbal sparring: Arsenal win. The scoring process of Reading vs Arsenal are based on a true story. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.